And we live. I think we live. All right. Peace and Black Power family. I want to welcome everybody to another NCRBGZ Productions. Today we have a nice show set up for the family. We have, you know, some international players up here today. So we got some flavor on the show today. So we're gonna hop right into the subject. The name of the show today is The Division Between the Black Man and Black Woman. Again, the name of the show and the topic of this show today is the division between the black man and woman. So what I'm gonna do is, because we have new panel members up here, I'm gonna introduce myself, and then we're gonna let everybody introduce themselves from my left phone. All right. So for all who do not know, my name is Stuart Fields. I'm the president of NCRBGZ. We are an organization, nonprofit organization that's based in Ahoskie, North Carolina. And we're about uplifting Black people and getting us to pull ourselves up and do the things that is needed to better our lives without other people really taking the control. I can give you a long spiel about that, but I'm not. I'm gonna make this short. So again, my name's Stuart Fields. I'm the president of NCRBG, and I thank y'all for watching the show. First person to my left, unmute yourself, Tariq. Unmute yourself.
Okay, can you hear me? Can y'all hear me? Okay. Hey, Al Tariq Hayes, founder and CEO of the Starting Point, where we focus on finances in our community. We teach people from the basics on up to complex financing and investing. We want to save the community by making sure that we get individuals to control their buying power and their spending, so we can reshape our community back to a big buying power. So that's what it is. I look forward to today's show, and that's all.
Next is Pam.
Yeah, hi, I'm Pam.
That's it. That's all you want to say?
Yeah, am I supposed to say where I'm from or something?
I mean, that's up to you. I mean, it's up to you.
Okay. So I'm Pam from England, so don't know where this is coming from. So
All right. Okay.
yeah, so I'm happy to join this discussion. hmm That's
All
it.
right. Well, thank you, Pam.
Hi, I'm Julie from Wolverhampton, UK, and a friend of Stuart's.
Julie, you anxious? You just jumped, my man.
Thank you very much for jumping me. I was just about to speak. Now, I hope everybody can hear me. Kind of new to Google Hangout, so bear with me. My name is Lance. I'm also in Wolverhampton, and I was invited here by Julie, so I'm looking forward to the discussion today.
All right. Thank you. We thank you. And last on the end, Joy.
You know what? I think I'm going to call her because I'm not sure if she understands how to use this thing.
Okay. Well, you can call her when while I'm putting the link out there again. People let them know we live. But all right. So I thank everybody for joining the show. This show was inspired by a conversation that we had on Thursday with Miss Julie, and she she was telling us some insight on some of the stuff that's going on over there in the UK as far as between Black women and Black men. So we decided that we wanted to have a lively discussion so we can try to jump into this topic to find out, some of the issues and what's going on. So with that being said, we have some questions that I'm going to ask. And, we want everybody to speak your mind, speak the piece, but at the end of the day, we don't have solutions. We are solution orientated Everything we do, we have solutions. So we're gonna come up with solutions at the end of the day. But right now we want to talk about it. So I'm gonna ask some questions right fast. One of the first questions are, now again, the topic of the show is the division between the black man and woman. So some of the questions are, what are some of the dividing factors? Again, what are some of the dividing factors? Is the black man still considered the head of the household? You know, let's talk about it. Does it matter if the woman income is greater than the man? Is government programs part of the problem? You know, is the government helping the situation or making the situation worse? Is the male ego affected if the woman is the breadwinner in the home? So if the woman make more money, what man can't take it? You know, is ego hurt? Is his pride hurt? Let's talk about it. Have the roles been reversed in the home? You know, is the woman now the breadwinner of the house? Let's talk about it. Is the traditional way of relationships a thing of the past? You know, let's talk about it. Is polygamy the answer? You know, these are some of the questions that we have to talk about to see if we can solve this problem that's going on between the black man and the black woman. So with that being said, I'm gonna jump in, but you know, I ease my way in because I want to basically hear everybody else speak on it. But from my point of view, and what I see in America, there is a division, but the division is orchestrated, and it's partly our fault, but it's also part of a bigger plan. So I would say there is division, but is the division at the point where we hate one another and we can't work out our situations and problems? No, I don't think it's that bad. I think that in the time frame that we are living in, a lot of times we have been taught things that I think is not correct. And maybe I'll jump in this a little bit later if we get a little deeper. But so, yeah, you have rift between black men and black women because we've been terrorized anyway. Since we first got here, or when we got where we at, we have problems that has been instilled in us for a long period of time. So I can give you from American perspective some of the things that has happened from the 1800s up to now. And you can, if you honestly look at this stuff and understand what has happened, you can see how the relationship has been damaged. But I would never say it's to the point that it cannot be repaired. And it is being repaired. But you know, we have to we have to talk about some of these things. So what are some of the dividing factors? Well, for one, a lot of us come from broken homes. Even those that have come from stable homes, you still have dividing factors that's going on. In America, you got a feminist movement that's going on, wherein the women don't need the man. So the government is the daddy because the government giving me the funds. You know, then you got some deadbeat men who just run out of the house. They don't want to assume responsibility as a father. So you have that angle. Then you have the black man and black woman that just don't know how to get along with each other. So we have to constantly bicker and argue with one another instead of coming up with ways to work things out. Then you have the man that is just afraid. And you got the woman that's afraid. So you got a lot of dividing factors that are going in. So I say it's a lot of dividing factors. You know what? I'm going to let y'all jump in because I can talk to tomorrow. But I'm going to let y'all jump in and, you know, y'all start weighing in one by one. You know, just be respectful of somebody else that's speaking. And let's not, you know, just talk over one another. So I open it up to anybody to jump in.
Yeah, can you hear me then?
Yes, we hear you loud and clear.
Okay. Well, as far as I'm concerned, I still believe the man should be the head of the household, and if husband and wife. My father was the head of the household, and my mother respected my father, and I, as children, siblings, we respected our parents. Um, I don't believe that traditionally the family unit is still upheld, and the man being the head of the household is still upheld by some. And I don't. So that is not dead. So that answers that question. You have posed a lot of questions, so I have to try and remember some of the questions that you stated. I do think the problem is more widespread in America, possibly because of the oppression in terms of civil rights movement and slavery, of course. Not that in England it wasn't how general black and based on the way they've been brought up and the way they've been raised. Of course, we can't always go back and blame everything on, generation of slavery and civil rights, but of course it has a bearing on the family unit. That doesn't mean the family unit cannot be re-altered. And being a Christian, it all stems from knowing God, for me, in terms of how you can break those generational curses that do not need to be passed down. If you're connected to Christ, it can be broken, the chain. So I think the lack of respect for one another is greater from what I've viewed on TV and things like that, documentaries about the relationship between male and female in the black community. Yeah, we do have, occasional deadbeat dads in England, and fathers who abandon their homes and their children, and domestic violence and disrespect and things like that. And women do earn, in some cases, more money than their spouse, but I don't think they deliberately, if just because the wife might earn more money than her husband, it can lead to perhaps jealousy from the husband, but it shouldn't if you are, working together as a team. But if jealousy comes in and greed and that power battle, then there's going to be conflict. So that's some of the points I'm sharing now. There's probably more to add, but I'll let somebody else interject. Okay.
Hey, okay. Well, I'll jump in there real quick. Hey, this is Al Tariq, everybody. I wanted to just touch on a few of the points that was mentioned so far. I think that everything that Stuart mentioned, his perspective, his idea, and opinion of the questions that was posed has some truth to it. And Ms. Pam, what you just mentioned right then has some truth to it as well. I'm the type of person I like to look at both sides of the coin. So when it comes down to a spouse making more money than a husband, yes, true indeed, that it could be taken as a threat from the male standpoint. It can create jealousy. It can create all of the things that was mentioned. But like Pam said, it shouldn't if you're on the same team. Now, on the flip side of that coin, not looking at from the male standpoint, from the female standpoint, what can it create on that side as well? It can create a power trip. It can create poor treatment towards the other person. Maybe the tables has turned. Maybe in a relationship that the male was at one point the breadwinner, or at one point bringing in the most resources to the home, and then the tables turned. Then, well, it can also stem from how did the male treat the female when he was the breadwinner, and if the tables turned, what treatment does the female dish out to the male? If you're already having conflict, power trip, like you said, you're gonna have issues.
Yeah.
All right, anybody else? Y'all want to come on? Y'all jump in here.
I'll just say a few things. I think most of the points that have been spoken so far are very valid, and there are so many factors that can cause division amongst the black men and the black women. But the one point that really stuck with me was the one that I can't remember who it was, but it talks about the way we've been taught as or either black men or black women that this is how you're supposed to behave in your family, and the way you see these happenings are how you see your parents do it, and when you see your parents do it, then that becomes an excuse to you to repeat the same thing. Just for an example, if you witness physical abuse, you think that that's the way I should treat my wife. If she doesn't listen to me, I'm going to beat her because those are the things that I've seen my father do. So that'll be an excuse for me to do the same thing. Or even being promiscuous, even though you're married, you'd be like, yo, my daddy did that. I should do the exact same thing. So it is the way we've been taught, or the way we've been conditioned to think in a certain way, to think that this is what it means to be in a relationship, or it means to be in a marriage, so to speak. So and obviously then we're going to talk about the influences of the community, or the wider aspects of TV, or the music you listen to, the movies you listen to, that we don't see them much as entertainment, but these can be also teaching tools as well. If you look at soaps, some of these storylines can be used as teaching tools. And then if we look at these things, we think, okay, this is the way I am supposed to behave. And when it comes into reality, then you realize, oh my gosh, this is totally different. I do not think that things were going to go in this certain direction. And even the point about if the woman is earning more than a man, and with the movement of feminism that are pushing for equal pay, and if your lady or your wife ends up earning more than you, then if you feeling jealous about those sort of things, then you got to look at yourself and say, why am I feeling jealous? Then that somebody else in the family is actually helping me out in what of the things that I'm meant to be I'm meant to be doing. And it all goes back to how we've been taught, because we've been taught to say that the man is supposed to be the breadwinner, is supposed to be the one who's the breadwinner, the one who's supposed to bring all the money into the house, and the woman is supposed to be the homemaker sort of things. But as you can see nowadays, it cannot work out that way. And I remember speaking to my friend of mine, is that because I'm just to let you know, I'm from Zimbabwe, a country in Africa, and I was speaking to him that the way the relationships work in Africa is that a man and a woman, like the father goes home to work, even though the mom, the lady is working as well. They'll come back, but when you're in the household, the woman's meant to be taking care of the house, cook and stuff. But as soon as you move into the UK, it's a different dynamic, because both of you have to go to work. And I've heard instances of some Black African men working, waiting for the wives to come from a 12-hour shift, so that they can, waiting for them to come from a 12-hour shift. He will die of hunger, and they has to wait for his wife to come from a 12-hour shift and cook for him. which you'd be like, you know what, you could have got up yourself and cooked for both of you and your wife instead of waiting for her. But it's, as I said, it's because of what they had been told, that, you know what, the woman is supposed to be cooking for you. You just have to sit around, put your feet up, and she does it, which you cannot do in the UK. Both of you have to pull the weight, and both of you have to carry the weight together. Now, when it comes to decisions, it might be a different thing. But when you're trying to make a home, it has to move and it has to change. And you can still change those fundamental, those aspects. All families are different. You can still change this without disrupting that structure of the man being the head of the household. So that's what I just want to say.
All right, anybody else? Because I'm about to spice things up. Y'all better start talking, because I'm about to spice it up in here now. So, Julie, Joy, y'all hop in here now. I'm about to spice it up.
Pretty much all has been said. I can't add to anything. Lance, I remember when I first started living with my husband. Yes, he was Nigerian. He did that. He waited for me to come home from work. And he's like, my feet are killing me. I've just worked, all day. And he's saying to me, we are hungry around here. And I'm looking at him thinking, you've been at home all day. What are you, that was a culture difference. I didn't even get it, but we worked that bit out. For me, yes, a man has to be the head of the household, 100%. I am fully prepared to humble myself as a woman and be your wife. But you need to be the man of the house. You need to be a provider. I should be able to trust you with, you're my provider. I should be able to trust you with everything. Yes, I will work and we'll put together, but at the end of the day, you should be the head of the house. Most men nowadays that I meet, they're quite happy to sit back and let the woman do everything, which is just disgusting to me. I don't get it.
Yeah, can I interject?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, it boils down really to one's personality. Everyone is different, and realistically, if you haven't got that mindset to be the leader in the family, then you won't be. Yeah, I mean, like Julie mentioned, ideally you want a husband, to be the head of the household, to provide, to go out and provide for the family, whether it's to be hands-on, whether it's set up your own business and be hands-on, or whether you go out and actually practically seeking employment so that you can provide for your family, pay the bills, put food on the table, put clothes on your children's back, pay for their education, whatever it might be. Yeah, no one's looking. I think no one's looking for an easy ride in terms of, I'm looking for a rich husband and he needs to pay for everything. It's not about that. You just want to know that you've married somebody who's not going to give up halfway and abandon the family, or who's going to just sit back and let you do everything, as Julie mentioned. It is easier because of racism. It is harder for some black men to get work, and it's more easier in some cases for black women to be able to be employed a lot quicker and easier than it is for our brothers. But it's not impossible. It's how you present yourself. You have to be willing. You have to know what the barriers are, and you have to eliminate the barriers, because there is racism. It does exist. It may not be as strong as it used to be, but you can go to another area and it might be more stronger in that area than it is further north or further south or further west. It just all depends on what area you're living in. And it's then you have to adapt to your surroundings, and you have to make sacrifices. But one thing I would say to sum this all up is that as a Christian, nothing is impossible. You know, doors can be open if you're relying on God above. And if you're not a Christian and you don't believe in any of that, then your journey will continue to be hard. Whether you're successful for 10 years or 15 or 20 years, eventually you will fall off that ladder. Because if Christ is not the head of your home, as well as your husband being the head of the household, God is the head overall. You see, so for me, if I'm married, then it's me, my husband, and God. And we both have to be holding on to him in order for the marriage to be a success. So that's the point of view that I can only give, because it's a Christian point of view, and I'm a Christian. And I know that nothing's going to work without him being in the mix. And so if I marry someone who's not a Christian, guarantee the marriage is not going to work. You know, so that might be extreme to some people. But for me, that's a strong view. So you have to be like-minded when you marry somebody. You and your husband have to be on the same level. You know, I'm not saying you both need to like the same things, but you have to be thinking on the same level in terms of how we're going to run our household, and the mutual respect and compromising, you know, and give and take. Yeah. And if one's on a power trip and one is disrespectful to one another or others, and it's all to do with upbringing as well. So, but as I said before, regardless of how you're being brought up, when you know right from wrong, you need to do right. There's no point saying, oh, I was dragged up, so that's why I behaved that way, because you know right from wrong when you become an adult or a mature person, you know. So I'll just throw that in if anybody else wants to interject.
Okay, I'm trying to invite my homeboy Jason. He the vice president of NCRBG. He one of the co-owners. He was here trying to see if he can get back. But until he get back, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm about to spice things up, because something you just said, Pam, I disagree with. Actually, I'm gonna be honest. No,
that's fine. You can disagree.
Actually, a lot of the, for one, I think everybody concept of the head of the household is wrong. And I'm about to spice it up, because when you study ancient history, you will find out that it wasn't no one head of the household. It was actually equal, both male and female. You both played your own part. And when it comes to the house, the male job was to protect the house. So your job as a man is to protect the house, meaning protect your wife and your children. But in protecting the house, the job of protection is what? To protect the family. So like with me, when you said that like-minded people, you have to be together, I agree with that. But when you throw religion into it, that's when you lose me completely. Because you say that is a dividing factor. That in itself divides people in my eyes. Because if we are not of the same religion, basically we cannot mesh together. And that is a form of division, the way I see things. Because I don't like to divide, I'm trying to unite. So when it comes to your religious belief in marriage, I know some people that are married that have different religious beliefs, and they get along well. I know some that are married that has different religious beliefs, and they have to separate. So it's not on the religion, it's on the individual people that are in the relationship. Now, when it comes to, as far as like y'all saying that you work all day, Judah said she worked all day, and then her husband sat there and waited for her to get off work to cook. He's just being lazy. Because at the end of the day, if you're not married and you're single, you're going to cook your own food. So just because you get married does not exclude you from cooking. That's not balance. Balance is we both do what has to be done to make the marriage work. That's with anything in life. You have to give and take. You give some, I give some. We give and take to get it done, but it can't be no one way or the other way. And I'm going to tell y'all this. Y'all all going to disagree with me, but I'm going to tell y'all right now. I know y'all going to disagree, and I might have to pull some facts up to prove it. The traditional thought process of marriage is wrong. That's not originally how it was. And when you deal with the nisut and you break that word down, and you break down the meaning of nisut, you will understand that it wasn't the male that ran the house. Or the dominant. When you pay attention to a lot of African tribes, my man said he's from Africa. I forgot what part he said. But I know some African tribes where the women does everything, and all the man have to do is take the cows, walk the cows around. And that's it. Walk the cows, protect the sheep, the cows, and that's all they do. The women basically does everything. And the man just walk the cows. So if you're telling me in that type of system, the man is the head of the household, you are backwards to me. Because I don't see the man as the head of the household. I see the man as protecting the cows. He's protecting, again, it goes back to what I said earlier about the man supposed to protect the house. But why do you have to protect the house? Is what's in the house that is what's really precious. So that's why you protect the house. But as far as being the head of the household is dependent on the skill set of which it needs to be done. I cannot be the head of the household. If my wife is better in financing than me, I'm not going to try to control the financing because she's better at it than me. If she's a better cook than me, I'm not going to tell her, well, guess what? I have to cook. No, you the better. See, that's where we get it confused. It's who is best at the position of what has to be done. That's who leads. So it all depends on what the situation entails. Depending, if I'm better cutting the grass than my wife cutting the grass, I'm not gonna tell her, well, you gotta cut the grass. I mean, it's depending on it all depends on the situation, and it also depends on who are better at the individual situation that's going on. So if my wife is a better decision maker than me, I don't have a problem with her making decisions. Because that's give and take. That's the way I see it. Now I know y'all ready to jump in, so go ahead, have fun. Everybody have fun. Go ahead.
Yeah, can I just quickly say, I agree with everything you're saying, and I think maybe you must have maybe interpreted what I said or what others might have said. But no, when I said my father was the head of the household in my family, that didn't mean that he did certain things in the house, and because he was the head of the household, he did certain things. If my mom, they both cooked in my house. Yeah. My mom was the main one that cooked, but my father also cooked if my mom wasn't there or she was out at work. My father was good, with building things in the home, and he communicated with my mom, but my father had the final word because out of respect for my father. And if my father said, no, that was not a good idea for us to go down that road, then my mother would respect him for that. She can give her opinion and say, well, I think we should do this. But if I had to make a serious decision, then my father made that decision. So it's not about, he carried the purse strings, because no, my mom had her purse string, my father had his, and the money was spent for the beneficial need of the family, whether that was down to food, clothing, whatever it might be, or something for the house, whether it was a repair. So I agree with everything you're saying. And in terms of your scenario with the man of the household in Africa and some African villages, it wasn't no, I don't agree. I know that the women did a lot of the things in the African villages and still do in some countries, in Kenya, Nigeria, perhaps, and especially those in the country. The women does do a lot of the work that some of the men should be doing, and some of the men do come across quite lazy. I do not agree that those men are head of households in that culture. And the thing is, the reason why they do it and it's accepted is because it's their culture for that tribe. Another tribe, it might not be that case, but the women do get the hay, the women do get the water, they do walk miles and collect the water and bring it back, they do cook the food, they do tend to the children. And yes, some of the men in that particular tribe will just attend to the goats. And and make sure that, you know, maybe they might bring home the meat and whatever it might be, and the women would cook it, etc. But a lot of women in the African tribes, some of them, can't speak for all of them, do work extremely hard. You know, and that's just a cultural thing. That's just a tradition. And some of those traditions need to be broken, and perhaps some of them have been broken. But no, I do. But realistically, you agreed with what I said, even though you said you didn't agree and you was about to, what was it you said? Turn it up in you know, turn it up, you know, put some heat on the conversation. But realistically, I'm saying the same thing you said, but you just said it a different way. And I don't believe that a man should be dominating the wife and dictating to be the head of a household. No, that's not the sort of head of the household I'm referring to. I'm referring to mutual respect, you know, teamwork, working together. Of course, if I'm better with the finances than my husband, if I'm better at calculating and working things out, then that's fine. You know, I don't expect him to say, I'm doing it because I'm supposed to do it. No, you said that you don't agree with in terms of the religious aspect. Well, that can only be based on your relationship with the Most High. You know, why you would come to that concept that you don't agree. I'm not saying that two people who aren't in the same faith can't have a successful marriage, because if they both have the same source, but they're going along meeting that source in a different religious path, then that's fine. If they both have love and respect for one another, it can work. There's others that get married, but they're of a different faith, and there's conflict because they're both, the source is not the same, you see. So I'm not saying it can't work, it can work, but ideally it can cause problems. So you have to make sure you deal with that and you discuss that before you tie the knot, in one sense. I mean, I don't believe in shacking up, so I can't really speak. To me, there's no foundation in that. If you're going to live with somebody and not married, you guarantee there is going to be a problem because there's no commitment to begin with. Yeah, and you're setting the wrong example for your children, unfortunately. Not everybody thinks that way, but that's fine. You know, but for me personally, it's not just about saying the man needs to be in charge of this or the man needs to be in charge of that to be the head of the household. No, it's not about that. As I said, it's an equal partnership. When the wife earns more money than the husband, some husbands are okay with that. It's not a matter of, they don't see it as a threat. It just depends on your personality and your character, why you would have a problem with it, and vice versa. You know, I think if you love yourself, yeah, a lot of people who don't love themselves and hate their race and hate their color then has another problem when they come across the opposite sex. They then hate the man, or vice versa. They hate black women. You hear black men say, I hate black women. And what they're saying is they hate their mothers and their sisters, and vice versa. You know, usually it's because of what they've gone through, what they've lived through, what they've experienced with black women as partners. And the same for women who have experienced bad relationships with black men. So therefore they hate black men, and then they go to another race. But it's a personality thing. And of course, it's life experience. And you have to get over some of those hurdles that they've experienced in order to come out the other end and see people as individuals. Yes, I just got into another section there. So I'll let somebody else interject. Thank you.
All right, we got Jason here. Jason, want to introduce yourself, man, to the family. And we're talking about the division between the black man and woman. That's the subject of today's show.
All right, peace, everybody. My name is Jason. Can everybody hear me?
Yep.
All right, my name is Jason Barnes. I'm the vice president. G's. And the topic, like I say, the separation is real. And as far as personally, as far as my personal experience, it's real in my family because religion, if you can understand what I'm saying, if you know what I'm saying, if you don't believe what your wife believes, could meet somebody and believe the same thing, then over time, one person can elevate their education and might not want to be a Christian no more. How does your other side deal with that? They deal with your change. That might not be, you know what I'm saying, quick to change with you. You know what I'm saying? Being with personal experiences. So, personally, like, you know what I'm saying? Me and my wife, we deal with our own little personal problems as far as that. But we work because we both know that's a, you know what I'm saying, it's an important family. And you know what I'm saying? So it's like you don't want to separate your family over that. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, you have to meet in the middle. Cause if you don't, it's you know what I'm saying, you're gonna have problems. You're really gonna have problems. And like I said, we've been through, you know what I'm saying? Me and my wife personally, you know what I'm saying? This is just a personal experience. You know what I'm saying? Religion plays a big part. Just like I say, I mean, it goes farther than that. I'm just talking personal, and I don't have no other issues. And my wife, we good when it comes to religion. We have a little, you know what I mean. I don't believe what she believes in. She don't believe what I believe in. It's just we have our own little, but we don't let that separate the family. You know what I'm saying? And that's the bigger point. Don't you don't separate your family. People don't realize that this is a plan and to separate you, and you don't even realize what they're doing. I'm not trying to separate my family, and you know what I'm saying. I wish a lot of people thought everybody has their own little, you know what I mean, their own way of dealing with things. So, like I said, I'm just jumping in here, so I don't know exactly what I'm about, and but like I said, it's real. You know what I'm saying? Don't keep it like that. You know what I'm saying? It's household. It's how you deal with it. It's a different. You know what I'm saying? You got a different reaction. So I mean, I like to hear other people's. I know I'm getting in late. I'm getting in late. You know what I'm saying? But saying this, it's real in my life. Separation, like people don't want you to be together. I don't care how good y'all doing, but it's up to you to realize that this problem is bigger than what's actually happening. Because man, like we could, like if we sat down and communicated and actually listened to one each other, worked out. You want to listen, you don't want to, you know what I'm saying? Ignorance is a killer. Ignorance is a killer in our family. I mean, ignorance is a killer, period. Because people don't realize we were bred to be ignorant. So if anything you deal with, you dealing with ignorance. You know what I'm saying? It just it's bigger than that. So it's just ignorance. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Me personally, man, it's like, man, ignorance is like we're losing. I telling you something that you don't know. We're quick to tell somebody, man, I ain't gotta know that. I don't care about that. You know, I'm like, what? Like for real? Like, you know, I mean, it like I say, ignorance. It's a big deal with our families because we're not realizing how big the picture is in our household when we really don't have to be arguing all the time. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, and you know what I'm saying? It's like I said, man, it goes a long way with this. I'm not gonna talk is for my experiences. You know what I'm saying? But we you know what I'm saying? We're gonna make sure it work. It's gonna work. You know what I'm saying? If I gotta learn a little bit from my wife. She learned a little bit from me. You know what I'm saying? So that's pretty much what I got to say.
All right. Anybody want to jump in?
Well,
If not, all right. Well,
yeah,
go ahead.
yeah. Well, no one jumped in, so I thought I'd just quickly jump in. What you need to realize, you need to remember who is the creator of families. So that cannot be denied, because God upholds families, and he is the creator of putting man and woman together to create families. So he cannot be, you cannot have a true unity without him, whether you like it or not, and whether you believe or not. In our eyes, in your eyes, you might be having a successful marriage and your family unit is intact and all is well. But that's on a human level, that your family is well and all is well. And you might think you don't need Christ, and you don't need anybody else in your family to make it complete. But God is the creator of marriage, and he upholds and wants families to stay together. So he will not divide it. It's only because we don't know him and we don't know how he works that we think that religion divides marriage. Religion will only divide your marriage if you don't really know how you're supposed to be within the marriage as a man of God or as a woman of God. And unless you know God for yourself, then you really won't really see it in the way that I'm explaining it. It will be, laughable, or it might not make any sense. But it's only until you really know God for yourself, and you really know what he's all about, and that he has your best interest at heart, and your wife's best interest at heart, and your children's best interest at heart, and just you as an individual. He has your interest at heart because he is the great creator. He created you. You're wonderfully made, and he has plans for you. So how can you not acknowledge him? So that's the reason why society has, and the black man and the black woman has deteriorated and treat each other badly, because they don't know God. We only think we know what's right based on our own understanding. Yeah. But when you know the word of God, you are transformed by the word. And so you think different. When you think different, you act differently. Yeah. And you recognize that you have potential in yourself and in others and in your fellow man. And you don't see color after that when you know God. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm just going to leave it there. And if anybody else wants to interject.
Arturi, you want to jump in, man? You real quiet. Julie, y'all go ahead and jump in, because I don't want me and Pam to do all the talking. So y'all jump in in a moment.
Could I ask Jason a question quickly? I just want to find out that you said that it was because of religion that you said basically religion separate. I just want to find out what aspects of that religion that you and your wife not agree with, like that causes arguments. Because I want to find out if it's just the idea of religion, or is it just aspects within that religion that you don't agree with.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
It was the aspect of religion for me. Like I said, I grew up in Christianity too. But me, it was, and you know what I'm saying, like me just growing up, learning more. Instead of me just believing what I was taught, people came to me and said, man, you know what I'm saying, instead of just listening to somebody, you could go research for yourself. So doing that, it led me out the church. You see what I'm saying? So basically, and I was already with my wife when I decided to do this. Like, you know what I'm saying? I mean, we had our disagreements only because teach a kid something, it's like her religion tells her whatever I say or anything that's outside of Christianity, devil. So I had to, you know what I mean? I'm like, yo, hold on now. You know what I'm saying? So you could make the kids go to church, you could make them go do this, you could do this and make this, blah, blah, blah. But when I say I want to teach them this or talk to them about this, or I can't do it, or you're gonna go behind my like it was that aspect. Like my kids can't learn nothing else. They can't make their own decision. That aspect, like if you know what I'm saying, if I lived in an Islam home, I would be Islam. If you know what I'm saying, if I was in another home, I would be something else. So being I'm a Christian, I had to realize, why am I a Christian? Because that's what the white man gave the slaves. So I learned that. But if you go talk to a Christian that's been a Christian all their life and hasn't studied where it came from or where it originated from, they will argue with you that they will agree with you that it came from slavery, but then they'll argue with you and say it's still God's word, blah, blah, blah. Like all that argument, there's no need for all that. But because of Tony Riddick, when I left Christianity alone, Tony Riddick brought me back to Christianity. Because what it was, the Christianity that I was taught, Europeanized teaching of European of Christianity. The Christianity that he taught us to the slaves, that's what we are being taught at the pulpit right now. Tony Riddick does not teach that. He's saying that these are African spirituality, these are African words in his Bible, but you can go through and find the truth in this. And listen to him, man, I'm all with Christians. I'm all with it. If you're learning from the African perspective. If Christianity is raising your elevation on learning and bettering yourself as an African American, to better yourself, to teach your kids to be better, okay, I'm down with that. And that we're being taught right now, we're not being taught that it's African based. We're not being taught that Christianity, like if you look at all religions, all of them have elevated. But for Christianity, for black people, we're on the bottom of the bucket. So me personally, I had a question. Like, if you got Jews following Christianity and all whatever they're following, and they elevated, they got their own schools, own education, and they're not they got their own stuff, they got their own everything, because they're not trying to be manipulated like we was. Our own favor to say, look, we've been bamboozled X amount of years ago, and we gotta look, it ain't gonna happen to us no more. We seen what's happening, and what they're doing now is showing their kids what the black people are going through. This is the education that they're teaching their kids. That look what the black folks are going through. Go through this. This is what you gotta learn. You gotta go through what we're teaching you, and when you get older, this is what you will teach your kids. You know what I'm saying? This is how it's gonna happen. We're gonna build for each other. Now, only because of the religion that we're following so deeply in love with, when we're spiritual people, we are. But the Christianity that they're teaching us, the people who was taught the spirituality that we had, that when they stole us, they're dead, man. They're gone. They're dead. So I'm realizing that we're accepting this Christianity because the people who decide not to die, the people who decided, my ancestors decided not to raise their child not to be a king and queen that they know they are, because they don't want to see them slaughtered and raped and cut open while they're pregnant and stepped on and murdered in front of thousands of people. They got tired of that shit, man. I don't blame my ancestors seeing us. I don't blame them. But I blame us now when you can tell somebody now, look, that Christianity, man, we was taught the wrong way. Don't change it, but listen, this is a whole nother way of learning. But if you don't want to learn that, and you don't want to listen to me, and you don't want to, if you don't want to accept a different aspect of living other than the European way, because if you be truthful, we only know the Europeanized education. And if you tell me that a African person you know your whole life could tell you how Africans lived before the European, and but I would say, well, then you got best of both worlds. But as far as African Americans that don't know the African state of mind, oh man, that's all we know. We whoop our kids because that's what the Europeans taught us. You know what I'm saying? Listen, that's why we whoop our kids. It's not because the way they learn how to learn respect is to whoop them. No. Because that's what the fucking slave master taught us to fucking do. All that to the average person. Now I'm gonna whoop my goddamn child. Now, man, fuck that. Whoop me. You know what I'm saying? But talking to your child like a fucking human being, telling them what they done wrong, explaining to them, man, I'm telling you. Listen, I'm gonna tell you, like, I heard a situation like people tell me, oh man, my brother, my so-and-so, man, he been whooped his whole life. He still was bad. Situation where child's been whooped and they're like, man, hell, fuck being whooped. I'm gonna do good. Okay, it don't work for everybody. You got some kids that's been whooped their whole life. Act up. So you want to tell me, so you tell me whooping it was the right thing to do for that child? No, you traumatized that damn child. You know what I'm saying? So me, basically, I know I've been Europeanized. I'm not ashamed to say it. From somebody else like Dr. Africa. I had to learn from Dr. Sebi. I had to learn from these other brothers that you know what I mean? Listen, if you go study Dr. Africa, he'll tell you I learned under the Europeans. I learned the Europeans. I went to Asia and went into the caves where they was fucking, you know what I mean? Where they bred at, and writing on the walls, he letting you know this. I studied the Europeans. Listen, man, I have people that study, like Dr. Clark, Dr. Ben. They say if you want to study the African American history, study the white man first. You know what I'm saying? Study the white man first, because his shit gonna end. When his shit end, you gonna go to your shit. You get what I'm saying? You gonna go to your culture, your history. You know what I'm saying? So I had to learn that myself. I couldn't learn that shit in church. I can't learn that shit. Listen, man. I can't learn that shit in church.
Let me interject right fast, because I don't want to go too far. Because we move into a religious conversation, and that's what I don't want to do. I don't want to turn this into a religious conversation today, because that is an aspect of the division, but there's other areas of the division that I would rather for us to focus on besides religion. So what my partner talking about, I understand wholeheartedly where he coming from and what he means and what he talking about as far as African Americans in America. He's right. We have been taught the white man on religion, hands down. So I don't want to dwell on that, because that's going to go into a long conversation, and I don't think that conversation is something the show should be about. And I don't want our first conversation to be about religion, because I want y'all to come back. Because if I hop in this conversation and start talking about religion, I got a feeling some of y'all ain't gonna come back, because you ain't gonna want to hear what I gotta say. I'm gonna take you deep into it, but I'd rather not. So I just want to talk. So let me do this, y'all. Let me react some of these questions on the show that is part of this show. We can start answering them questions. Let's do that. So Let me see. All right, now this is some of the questions. We asked what are some of the dividing factors. Okay, we done hit that, some of the dividing factors, right? Now we want to talk about, is the black man considered the head of the household? That's one question. Does it matter if the woman income is greater than the man? Right? Them the two questions let's deal with right now. Is the black man still considered the head of the household? Number one. Does it matter if the woman income is greater than the man? And we'll deal with them two questions. Is the black man considered the head of the household? Number one. And does it matter if the woman income is greater than the man? So I'm gonna give y'all my spiel on these two questions right fast. All right. Is the black man still considered the head of the household? Yes. The black man is considered head of the household predominantly because, damn, I just said I didn't want to talk about it, but it went right there. It's predominantly because of religion. To be honest, that's where it comes from. To be honest, if you honestly want to talk about it, that's where that actually comes from. But I'll let y'all deal with that. I'm not gonna talk about it. But so is the black man considered the head of the household? Yes. I'm gonna say yes. All right. Does it matter if the woman income is greater than the man? Now, I would say the older generation, maybe yes. But in this new age, we understand that we're in a capitalistic society. So for us to survive, we all have to be bringing in income, because one source of income usually is not enough in the time in which we live in now. So both of us need to work. We both need to be able to share the wealth. Unless one of us have a real good paying job, it's a possibility. But usually it's best if both people working. So does it matter if the woman's income is greater than the man's? Not to me. Me personally, I would like for my woman to make more money than me. It really don't matter to me who make the most money. What matters is how we use the money to benefit us, our family. That's the only thing that matters with me. So that's my spiel on them two questions. So anybody else can hop right in. Tariq, you still here?
Yeah, I'm here, man. I'm trying to respect everybody's time and let them jump in and jump out. But I wanted to. Nobody has the comment. I'm in the mall, so if it's kind of loud, don't mind the noise. But if nobody has the comment to what I'm about to say, because I'm gonna backtrack a little bit on that first question. What's some of the dividing factors? Well, I'm just gonna give one example because someone threw out an example of a male going home. Pretty much men being lazy, sitting back, letting women work and do their thing. So I just wanted to remind everybody that there's two sides to everything. So at the end of the day, treatment that comes from the male, we got to understand, how ego might boost when someone has the power. Because something that my pastor talks about, that he said in any relationship and any marriage, you're going to have problems if these three things, any one of these three things are off. He said the first thing is power, the second thing is finances, and the third thing is sex. So he said and it made so much sense to me when I thought about it. If any one of those three are off, if you're fighting over power, if you having problems in your finances or in your sexual life, you're going to have conflict or problems in the marriage. And it made sense, and I believe in that. So that's one thing, dividing factors, right? So now on what you just mentioned, is the black man considered the head of the household? I know me, myself, personally, I consider myself as the head of the household, and my wife treats me as the head of the household. And my wife is with me right now while I'm talking. Just want to let y'all know. She treats me as the head of the household. But I don't know at all times in her head is that the case. You never know what someone is thinking. You know what I'm saying? At times you have to question that, just like women may question, if a man respects them. They may say, yeah, well, he treat me with respect. But at times he might do something that you feel you was disrespected. So then in your head you go to saying, wow, do he really respect me? Like he should. So is the man the head of the household? I say, even if the female makes more money than the male, because at one point in time, my wife made more money than I did. You know what I mean? And it didn't make or break me. She didn't necessarily treat me any different. But at the end of the day, I can't say where I can see her confidence in the relationship rise. Did I take that as a negative thing? Did I take that as a threat? No, I didn't. So overall, on an individual basis, is the man the head of the household. But it's all about how someone treats their spouse. It don't matter if it's a man or a woman. So me personally, I say yes, and I also say that it has to be um, structure and a system in place. Used to be that system was, um, the man was the head of the household. Women didn't have to work, and like Stuart just said, it takes more than one source of income nowadays to make it because of inflation and cost of living. So women, not only choose to work, they most of the time they have to work. So if that system is in place, like I told my wife the other day, we was actually in a couples retreat with our church, and I said in there, I said, well, the problem that I see two things I see that's really a problem for relationships with black man and black woman. One I see is that there's a lot of households that the man and the woman are secretly in competition with each other. And I know this from firsthand experience. I also
Facts.
know it from looking across my family, friends, and those who I know very well. Um, Women and men are secretly in competition with each other. So when my wife and I were just pulling up to the mall, I told her, I said, I'm telling you, at one point in time, you and I didn't know it. We may not, um, really focused on it and say, yeah, I'm gonna be in competition with my spouse. But I can look at times where I can clearly point out that you and I were in competition with each other. And then that's when we was having most of our problems. So when we kind of focused on team building, and then it's like anything else, man. You have to study some stuff. You have to do exercises with each other. You have to have conversations. So to hit on the point the question that you last asked was the black man, the head of the household. I say if he chooses to be and if he's allowed to be.
Yeah. Oh,
Go ahead, Jason.
my whole thing with that, man, talking about maybe 30, 40 years ago, I could say, yeah, man was the head of the household. Grandma, granddad, they knew what it was. Grandma knew what it was. Grandma ain't had no problem. You know what I'm saying? Oh man, if you don't, you know what I'm saying, set that boundary right then, it's crazy, man. You got women out here from your friends. Still, I don't no respect to you. Not. Like, I mean, it's like, man, it's one of them things household, if you respect, if you need that respect. If you meet a woman and she's running, she's playing her role like thing, and you're not saying nothing about it, or you're not trying to, oh man, you're gonna get ran over. Just because just their age. All this email, all that leads to the women, and you know what I'm saying? All people don't understand all that led to something else. Now we're catching the backfire from all that. Saying they could do for themselves, I mean, I don't got no problem with that. The man, now I got a problem with that. That's how that comes about. But as far as the question is, do men these their age have had a household status, get into a relationship? Nah. Not unless that lady already knows, that woman already knows that's what you expect. But from the gate, if you just lady and around all the time, I mean, and like even then, she's still gonna respect you, and you're gonna respect her for everything. or you stand with her. And it's like, but if you don't say it now, this day and age now, you have a hard time trying to get respect 12 years from then. You know what I'm saying? Trying to say, now, you know what I'm saying? If you came in, but you know what I'm saying? But if you coming in 10 years later saying, oh, I need some respect now, man, she gonna say, oh man, she gonna say, look, go ahead. You know what I'm saying? Now let's know, like, when you was there, like, look, I got something. You know what I mean? To bring to the table. Now, if you ain't bringing nothing to the table, and you ain't, you know what I'm saying? Now, it's levels to this stuff now. You bring stuff to the table, and you doing all this, and no respect, because you think everybody equal. Like, she's bad, like, she's doing more than you, whatever. See, it's a difference between that, and that's a category. As if you just coming in and you saying, look, together, we're gonna do this equally, everything is equally. Then you come in buying everything and doing that for the lady, and at one point you can't do that for her. Takes that as a weakness. See, this day and age, girls do that. Having no money. You know what I mean? And I ain't gonna say guys might do it too. You know what I mean? But I'm just saying, this day and age, my grandma knew my granddaddy, you know what I'm saying? Look, but my granddaddy knew my grandma had her. Look, my grandma, you know what I'm saying? My granddaddy knew. He ain't gonna say nothing. My grandma go uptown. No, he ain't gonna argue with him. But it was that respect. It was that respect because they knew for the family. And nowadays, people got pride now. We got more pride concern the family. You know what I'm saying? More about what people gonna say about them. Saying, or if they're not with that person after the amount of years, and the family comes, like, it's family, man. It's family. Man, I want to keep running. This day and age, if a guy, even if a woman wants respect, she gotta let that brother know. If you come off not respectful, 10 years later, like, you want, like, I mean, I don't see it. Like, go ahead, you know what I mean? But it's all about the person you deal with. That deserve respect. You ain't gotta deal with crazy stuff. You know what I'm saying? So in this day and age, I think he has to let them know, and the woman has to know we're gonna do this together equally, or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Something has to be done in the beginning.
All right, look, Eric got up here. Eric, you want to introduce yourself to the family, man? We're talking about the division between the black man and woman. That's the subject, the title of the show today, the division between the black man and woman. We're giving everybody a chance to say something. You want to hop in here? You got to unmute your mic because your mic is muted.
Yeah, okay. Well, my name is Eric, and I really ain't gonna have too much to say on that, but we do need to get together, you know what I'm saying, unify with each other, because you know what I'm saying, we've been going to things, you know, especially, you know what I'm saying, with history and stuff like that. And
Eric, back away from the phone, man. Back away from the phone.
Say that again?
Back away from the phone. It's too close, man. You got the Pinocchio nose and everything up here. All right, you good now, bro.
So how this sound?
Yeah, you good. You good now.
Huh?
You good. You good.
Well, just like I was saying, we need to unify with each other. You know what I'm saying? Go back to like it used to be back in the olden days. Because man and woman is not the way they used to be before. They used to be tight, couldn't break them apart. But now, you know what I'm saying, it's a whole bunch of things that's going on now. That's basically my basic thing right there. But as we get further into the conversation, I might have more to say. But for right now, that's all I got to say for right now.
Our UK family, y'all want to jump in? Y'all don't all speak at once now. And we got to fix Joy Mike, because Joy going ham in the chat. We got to fix up Mike. But y'all hop in here, man. Say what y'all want to say.
I'll start. Probably the girls might say something afterwards. But like as you guys were speaking on the question raised, I don't think the head necessarily means that a man has, well, I can't say he has to do everything, nor does he has to sit back and everything. I was just like, as you were speaking, I was thinking that for my personal view, if I were to find a woman and find a wife, what I would like her to do is to help me make some decisions, not just me just thinking up like, listen, we have to do this, listen, you have to do this, or listen, we have to do this, and she keeps her mouth shut. I don't think that's a person who's probably leading a family properly, because you're not hearing what everybody else has to say in the matter. So I would love to, even if it means an argument, or even if it means a structured debate, I don't mind that. But as long as she is involved in whatever I'm going to say, even though I would have to probably have the last decision on these things, but to have somebody who's just silent all the time, I don't think that's a good relationship, if you know what I mean. I'd rather have somebody with a bit more input, but then again, I do not want somebody to argue for the sake of it. Just because you now have an opinion, it means that you're supposed to to overwhelm me with certain things, and not allowing me to do certain things by myself. And I know at some places that I remember a good friend of mine has told me that men will always be in places where they are respected. If you look at if a man ends up cheating on his wife and stuff like that, in most cases, you can boil it down to that person not being respected in the household, and he moves on and find that respect elsewhere, even if it means it's with the prostitute. He's finding his respect there. He finds a woman who listens to him, or so on and so on and so forth. So anyway, back to what I was saying before, is that I would love somebody to help make certain decisions, and not necessarily just to keep quiet as I am the head, but the woman's input is just as important. So I don't know if the ladies have got something to say about that. That's all I want to say.
Julie, Pam.
Yeah. Can you hear me still?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay. I'm going to log off shortly anyway. But obviously it's my first time joining this type of conversation. And I know we're all Black, but we're from different backgrounds and cultures. Well, not cultures, I mean in terms of environment. And so we all have different vocabulary in how we speak. And I don't want to say, well, you talked about respect when we joined the conversation. not to speak over each other, which we haven't. But for me, I know this might sound a bit odd for some, because it's commonplace, but for me it's not. So, and for some people it might not be either, in terms of having a discussion where there's certain bad language in the conversation. So that's not something that I'm good at interacting with in this type of setting, because it can come across offensive. It's not directed at me, but it can come across like, ooh, because I can talk without, swear words. And for me, I didn't grow up in a household where we use that sort of language. And in my day-to-day life, I don't have that language around me unless it's somebody passing by. I can deal with that because they're just passing by. But so I think we need to either consider certain words that we use when we're talking to one another. I don't know whether you've ever considered it before. Maybe no one's ever said anything, which is fair enough. I can opt out. Obviously, it's my choice. But for me to have an intelligent, constructive conversation, we have to. But because it's part of how we've grown up, for some of us, it's just natural to swear when they're explaining things. For me, it's not. So I know this might be offensive to somebody that if I'm saying that to them, which I don't mean to be offensive by saying I don't really appreciate the swear words in the conversation. I understand what you're saying and I hear the passion in what someone's saying, and I can be passionate and real about the conversation without inputting the foul language, because that's just a turn off for me. I just have to switch off. So I hope you don't mind me sharing that. It's difficult to, I've already answered the questions and I've already given my view on the questions in terms of who should be head of the household, etc. And I know you said we didn't want to go down a religious route, but to me they go hand in hand. So I'm not going to bring it up again, but for me you can't discuss one without the other, because it is always going to be in everything, because that's what determines our behavior. Yeah. So that's all I've got to say on that, really. I don't know if Julie wants to comment on that, since she hasn't spoken. But yeah, that's what I want
but
to
look,
say.
before you go, Pam, I hope you didn't get offended by I guess foul language, but like in our conversation, it happens. I'm gonna just tell you. Sometimes
no, I'm sure it does. Trust me.
Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. But we try not to
Okay.
address it toward anyone. So I hope you don't get offended and say where you
No, I know it wasn't towards anyone. I know it wasn't. As I said, it's just probably used because that's how you communicate. And when you're passionate about things, yeah, we can all cuss and curse. I mean, I
just
used to
don't
do it
want
in
to
the
run
past.
you away. We don't want to run you away, Pam, when you don't come back, because we need to have a conversation about religion one day. But this just ain't the show, because I would love to have a conversation with you about religion. But Julie, go ahead. But before you go, Pam, we have to talk about this problem in the UK, wherein black men ain't dating black women, and black women is shying away from black men. So before you go, we got to touch that. But go ahead, Julie.
Okay. Julie, are you going to speak?
Yeah, she unmuted her mic.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear
you. As far as religion is concerned, I want to make a point. There's a difference between God, and sometimes people confuse the two. Do you understand? Depending on what church you go to, the pastor has his own rules and laws, which has nothing to do with the Bible. And then that's what causes the division.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we need to understand that church is not God. You don't need to go to church to serve God. It's just a building, and whatever the pastor says, he's going to face judgment day himself. So you have to take him with a pinch of salt. He's not God. To separate the two.
Okay.
That's it. Because I'm about to go to the other questions. I just want to make a quick comment. Al Tariq hit something. Al Tariq hit the nail on the coffin when he said in a lot of relationships, the people are competing against each other. I think that he hit it right on the head when he said that. I think that's exactly something that we need to discuss a little bit further. The competition within. Now, it may not be so much going on in the UK, but in America, that is really going on. And I think, Al Tariq, that was a beautiful point, brother, you brought up. I just want to let you know that was a beautiful point. And we might make our own show just about that in itself, because that was a beautiful point you brought up. So let me go. I'm going to ask a couple more of these questions because there was more questions on the show that I don't think we touched all of them. I know one of them was, Julie, did you want to say something else? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut. I'm sorry, Julie, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. Yeah, I've got a friend here. His name's Omar. He has something to say. He keeps on reminding me that he's a proud Jamaican man. So, I'll give him space to speak.
Hello, comrades.
Peace.
Yeah, right. The question about why our black men not dating black women here and black women not dating or shying away from black men in the UK. What I've found since I arrived here, say 15 years ago, 16 years ago, is that we speak of, but one of the greatest prejudices I found when I came here is from my own black people. Coming from Jamaica, you seem to be a lesser black man, and you have to prove yourself, seriously. So when you meet a girl here, because we come here and, for example, some sort of visa status, and you come here to look for a better life or for any form of permanency, you have to either choose to go through marriage or the professional route. You meet a nice black girl, and in my situation, somebody they really like has nothing to do with status. And her mom, who is from Jamaica, is telling her not to date a Jamaican man. That is where the issue starts. So I came here, I had to struggle seriously to date my black woman because I was from Jamaica. To the contrary, I met a white girl from Poland who treated me like a king. I would like to say I'm not racist, but I just couldn't see myself continuing with a white woman, but this woman treated me like king. I've been to Europe many times, parents, but my own black woman didn't want to accept us. And to this day, Julie here, she's my friend, and we always argue, we always debate, right, about Jamaicans. And I said, listen, until you people start to appreciate your men will always run away. Because I was listening to one of the guys before, and he said, a man will go anywhere he gets respect. And he'll go because, unfortunately, because our black women were fighting with us through slavery, they come across very aggressive. And I understand why, because they have to fight with us. They're not as calm as, excuse me to say, the white ladies, because they have to fight by our side for slavery, through slavery. But when is it that, not all, but when is it our black women will start embracing their black men and supporting their black men? You know, in this country, most black women rather take nonsense from a white man than to take nonsense from a black man. I was put down. I've only been recognized because I fought against all the bad thing I've gone through and somewhat put myself on the map. And only now you'll find to get a little respect from our black women because they feel like you have achieved. Not realizing that I'm screaming out Appreciate us. We need you. We need your help. We need to support us. Stop pushing us away. Respect us. That is my view on it. And until we as a people start appreciating who we are, I love my black women. I love my black women to death. And I will never shy away from them. But my God, I want them to appreciate us.
Okay, so the women over here, Julie and Pam, like the man asked the question. I want to know why is this so?
Well, if I can just say, I think usually men and women tends to be men that come up with those concepts that black women don't like black men, or they prefer to date out of their race. Usually it was that was, to some people, that was started by black men dating out of their race and looking down on the black woman like she wasn't good enough, and then dating usually a Caucasian woman like it was a status symbol. So to some black women, they would say that the black man started doing that first. So that's disrespecting, and that will come across as you're disrespecting your sisters by going, with the white woman. And of course, if we all know our past in terms of the time of slavery, where you were lynched for dating a white woman, and maybe the mentality has come from slavery in terms of where, as a black woman, you're not good enough, and so there's self-hatred, and then the black man probably has that same self-hatred, like he's not good enough. But in terms of my brother who's just spoken regarding his experience, that is your own experience, and of course you can only own that, your experience. But we tend to sum everybody up. I know you said the word some, you didn't say all, but we tend to assume that is an issue, but it's only an issue for you because you've lived it, you've walked in those shoes, and you've experienced it. I do believe that black women, not all, have a higher expectation of their black men. And so sometimes, whether it was black or white, it wouldn't make any difference. You have expectations of a man and how a man should be. And if the man is not, perhaps not up to that level, you might not think he was dateable material, because you don't want to date someone who you have to carry, who you don't see any potential. Doesn't mean you're hating on the person. You just know that that person is not what I'm looking for, perhaps at this moment in time, because you're not able to bring anything to the table. So you might just stay friends. So sometimes you have to just look at yourself. I mean, for me, I respect all black men, rich, poor, or whatever. I know the type of husband I'm looking for, and I haven't met him yet in one package, so to speak. You see good characteristics in one black brother and another type of good characteristic in another brother. And you don't, but you're looking for the full package. It's not the end of the world if they don't meet all your criteria, and vice versa for a woman when a man's looking for the right type of woman. And we're all looking for something different. But I think you have to make sure that you have everything right with yourself first, and that's sometimes one of the problems. So I don't think black women are dating outside of their race. I don't really see that many black women.
Sorry. If we could just interject here, you've touched a very good point, and that's exactly the problem. All our black women are looking for self-made men. A real woman don't do that. When I came here, I had nothing. I wanted a woman to support me and help me. Now I am a commercial manager with everything where money is concerned, but not a good black woman. All I wanted was somebody to support me and be there for me, because I knew where I was going. I don't want a self-made woman. I want a woman with ambition who is willing to fight the fight with me. And that is our fundamental issue They are looking for self-made.
Yes, but what I'm saying, you said, brother, is that was your experience. So I don't know how many black women you dated in that journey for you to come to that conclusion. Because you might have only dated 20 women. It just turns out that those 20 women didn't support you because, as what you just said, you had nothing to offer at that time. Now that you have something to offer, they see you as a catch. That might be the case, you know, but that doesn't mean that they're all on the same category.
Can I say something? I think there's a difference between foreign black men and English black men. Do you understand? When my parents, they said to me, when I brought on a Jamaican man, they said, you can't marry that man. My mom went as far as to find me somebody else. She said, I cannot marry this yard man. My own mother said that to me. But as for English black men, they don't really date black girls like us. They don't look at us.
When I came here, I found a culture that I couldn't believe. I found a culture where, because obviously I was mostly in the inner city, I found a culture where the black man was willing for his woman to, Julie, if I'm wrong, tell me, for his woman to go and bring money into him.
Yeah,
hustle. That's the culture I found here. I couldn't understand. And I remember I was arguing with some, because I'm a very proud black man. And I remember I was arguing, how can you want another man to touch? Because most of these are like pimps. How can you want another man to touch your woman? Found. So it took me a long time to understand the culture, but I would never accept. I'll tolerate it, but I'll never accept it. But then when you start talking to the black men, these black men, they were never taught how to treat their black women, and these black girls were taught not to date any black man who is not from this country.
Yeah.
So what they're left with stupid black men with no direction. And that's the issue. So what you found, like for example, in Wolverhampton, there's a lot of very bright black kids. Where are the fathers? Wolverhampton is very small, and some of them haven't seen their fathers for what, 5 years, 10 years? And Wolverhampton is like, how long does it take to cover Wolverhampton? Probably 20 minutes?
Yeah.
20 minutes. And this is what we have found. When we come, because I'm from a culture in Jamaica where you're taught that your children and your woman is a responsibility. In fact, my father did not allow my mother to work. My father said he wanted hot food when he comes home. He'd go and do all the work and bring the money home. And my mom should take care of the children. I'm from that background. So when I came here, that's what I know. But when I came here, I had nothing. I just wanted somebody to support me because I knew where I wanted to go. Nobody was willing, because the girl that I love, the mom says, don't get married to a Jamaican. And this is not my story, excuse me to say, Pam. It's amongst the immigrants. So when I speak, I'm speaking from the immigrant world. You understand? Especially the Africans are slightly different because of cultural reason. But especially the Jamaicans don't get married to a Jamaican man. Don't get me wrong. A lot of them come here and get married, and then when they get the papers, they run off. But yet still, the ones who are really trying, how far would we have been as black men and black women? Because I can't see myself dating a white woman personally. And to be honest, again, I would like to believe I'm not racist, but one of the most horrible sight to me, which I've been seeing a lot in Wolverhampton, is a black woman dating a white man. I hate it. It hurts me to my heart. But then, if she can't date a Jamaican man who is from her heritage, and the black English guy is not treating her well, then what option has she got? But when I see it, it hurts me. And you know what? They always have the prettiest black women. I don't like it. And I don't like the black men.
So it's all right if they have an ugly one then.
Listen, they always have our prettiest women.
You can have the ugly one, it's all right. It don't hurt you as much.
No, it hurt when I say a black woman with a white man. But the team.
But especially if they're pretty, that would be too painful.
No, but that had a bit more pain to it. But seriously speaking, as a people, We need to start appreciate ourselves. I know our black women are a little bit more, I don't want to use aggressive, but I understand why, because she was there with us when we were fighting slavery. So she can't be a walkover. And I appreciate that. All I want in a woman is fire. I want a woman who's a volcano. That's all I want. I will do everything else, right? Look at Obama. He has got a volcano beside him. That's what we need. I want you, or a black woman, to stand us by. Believe in us. We are a little bit slow sometimes, but believe in us. We will do it. That's all we are asking. I'm not looking for a self-made person. All I need is somebody who has ambition. That's all I need. That's the only ingredients I need from a woman, and I'll do the rest.
I understand what you're saying, and you know, that you sound like a great guy. And I don't think women are looking for a self-made a person. I'm not looking for a self-made man. I'm looking for a godly man, and that's the first thing he needs to be. He can be rich, he could be famous, but if he's not godly, I'm not interested. So that's my first thing that I'm looking for. He needs to be godly because I'm godly. So I need that match. But that aside, in terms of you know, you said that you know, the women, their parents tell them not to marry a yardie, you know. And the reason why is you mentioned it, and that's the unfortunate, that's a stereotype in terms of, well, it's not a stereotype, but it's been linked into a stereotype because some, as you mentioned, they get married to a yardie or another, you know, vice versa. And after 12 months, that they're gone back to business. Yeah. So sometimes people are marrying for the green ticket. Yeah. And then once, you know, they've done their stay and they've got the immigration status, they've gone. And because of that, has happened in the past, and perhaps too often, and you know somebody, then that puts you off from marrying a yardie, even if you're in love with that person, because the same thing might happen to you because it happened to so-and-so down the road, or it happened to Mrs. So-and-so daughter. So your mother would more likely, my mom never told me anything like that, to don't marry anybody. That never even entered into our family circle, you know. If I brought somebody home to my mom and that's it, she can give her opinion and her views, and that's as far as it would go. But I think because of those things that have happened in the past, where people have married, and we call those green card marriage, you know, so it's like one-sided, you know, you're in love with the man, but then he leaves you and you're left with 3 babies and no father. So that's probably why people have a negative stereotype about the Jamaicans back then. I don't know how strong it is now, but I know that was something that we used to say, green card marriage and stuff like that. So unfortunately, there are others who will always spoil it for you because that's what they did in the past. You get where I'm coming from?
Yeah, I get you totally, but
yeah,
I get what you're saying. So for me, I'm a guy who likes solution. How can we fix this? How can we remove this barrier? How can we make our men stronger to lead the homes? How can we, whether be it a Jamaican man, an African man, you understand? How can we get some form of equilibrium amongst ourselves? How can we, the black men, I'm asking you as a black woman, how should I bring myself across?
I mean, you said that, you know, you dated a Polish woman because she treated you well, and you said that, you know, it grieves you when you see a black woman with a white man, especially when she's, you know, really pretty. But I'm gonna let you off on that one. I'm not gonna debate that. But I'm not gonna debate that. But and it shouldn't make any difference how pretty she is. You know what I mean? But just like it grieved you to see a black woman with a white man, so it grieves some black women to see a black man with a white woman. It grieved them too, you don't even know. You know, probably grieved the black woman more when they saw a black man with a white woman. Grieved them more because what black women went through during slavery and the civil rights, especially in America. We didn't get it that bad over here, but I'm sure my parents back in the 50s, 60s would have felt whatever they felt, you know, with the racism, etc. But I know in America, it was probably a lot stronger stuff to deal with. So you can imagine the slap in the face, because as I said before, it was the black man really, especially when it started from higher level celebrities that went, you know, Sidney Poitier. You know what I mean? From when you saw people like that go off with a married white woman, what was that saying to the black woman who stood side by side with the Black Panthers to fight for civil rights? You know what I mean?
Hey,
And
let's
sorry.
let Lance jump in. Let's let Lance jump in because I
Yeah,
want to hear
sure.
his perspective on this. Lance, hop in here. I want to hear your perspective, man.
Oh wow. Okay. Oh gosh, where to start? Well, I can understand. Well, this is what I understand from the conversations I've been hearing. Obviously, there is a stigma there on black men, and and I, to be honest, I have seen it as well. But the thing is, with from my point of view, I, I don't mind and I don't care when it comes to if somebody black man or black woman decides to go and marry a white woman or another of a marriage, I don't mind. I'll go to your wedding. I don't care. But I think it goes back to your own personal views. Like, I'll never, if you say I'll never go that way, that's fine with you. That's your own opinion. To my point, I don't really mind. But the thing is, like, it's, I don't think we should be disheartened when these things happen. Like, we're going to lose our blackness or something like that. If these things happen, you marry the person that you like. If they manage to be Polish and so whatever, you do your thing. You go and do that. You know what I mean? But if you're taking it as an attack on black families, that somebody decides to go to a different race to get married or something like that, I don't know what to say about that. But just to go back to my first point, is just that there is a stigma on black men. I've seen it, and I've I've experienced it. I think I'll probably answer. Well, I'll probably ask this question as well as we're moving along, and I think it's just touched upon by the gentleman before me. Is like, how do we take off that stigma on black people, or the black men, basically, or black women? How do we change their perspective, or they change their ways of thinking, so to speak? Like, how do we change them that if not everybody, for example, not everybody like from Jamaica lived in a yard and they're coming over here and this is how they behave? How do we change that perspective that that's how they? The same thing with us as Africans. When we come over into the UK and stuff, they have a particular picture of us, but not seeing me. Like, for myself, I came from Africa, but I've been educated all my life my whole of my education was in a private school until I came into the UK, which is crazy to think that I've ended up coming into a government school in a supposed progressive world, which is baffling to me. So how do we change that perception amongst ourselves, that it does not necessarily mean that I come from a certain background means this is how it's supposed to be? So I don't know. If anybody wants to add on to that, I'll be glad.
You want to get in? Oh, okay. Well, we talk about the division between the black man and the black woman. I know one of y'all take over right fast. I'll be back. We talk about the division between the black man and the black woman.
I think for me personally, I think we've come a long way, and I do agree with you that it doesn't matter who you want to get married to, whether it be black, white, or yellow. That people, it's a responsibility to mold our generation. Now, the only way we can mold our generation is to embrace each other. This is a Polish woman because my black woman didn't want me. You understand me? And I couldn't understand that, But and she was a very nice girl. But for me, I don't see I'm not. I don't think I'm racist, but I just think that I'd rather to be with my black woman, but I also want my black woman to respect me and give me a chance. I want my black woman to believe in me. I want my black woman to stop have sight and have vision. I want her to understand where I'm going, to walk with me. I want her to hold me when I'm falling. You know, you don't have to see me I'm a nice guy and then, yeah, that's a good guy. No. I was on the road, I was walking, I was going to parks, hustling. My father used to hustle, sell stuff, buy stuff. My mom never left him until he has arrived to where he wants to be because he had a vision. I want a vision. I want to know how I can move that space upon me. My people that I love so much, by my black women that I love so much. You know, how can I remove it when the white woman loves us so much, loves us and respects us so much? Why can my own black woman love me, respect me, and believe in me? Believe in me that I'm trying to do my best, and I just need a little support from her. That's all. Let's look at the solution. And we know what the faults are. How can we do this? Julie, how can we do this? Tell me in simple terms, so we can understand. How can we change your perception? How can we attract you again? How can we be attracted to you again? Help us.
Well, I'm attracted to you already. Let me just tell you that now. You sound like a nice person, and you sound like you got good characteristics. I'm going to put that aside. You're saying all the right things. You just haven't met the right person yet, and you're not racist just because you prefer to be with a black woman. It's not. No one has to be ashamed to say that. I'm not racist. There's some good-looking white guys out there. There's some good-looking Asian, some good-looking black men. But for my taste, I would prefer to marry a black man, and that's it. But if it ends up being a white guy, then so be it. If I fall in love with him and he treats me like a queen, then so be it. But my preference is a black man, and I will treat him like a king, and he will need to be treating me like a queen. It's as simple as that. It's a as I said before, we're all children of the king, and so I know what I'm worth, and my husband should also be worth the same that I'm worth. So that aside, you just haven't met the right person yet. And sometimes when you go chasing, you won't always you'll find a few rough diamonds before you find the right one. You just need to do your thing. You said, how can we change the way people think? How can we change the black woman's mentality or the black man's mentality so we see each other in a positive light? All we can do, all you can do, all I can do is be a positive role model. That's all we can do. Especially when you have children, you have to be a positive role model for them. If you're not, and you're ratchet and all those other stereotypes that we have labeled against us, but if we behave badly, we can only expect our children to grow up like us, one of us, the same character, same mentality, and we're just passing it on from one seed to the next. So once you recognize that there's a problem, and if it's in you, you have to fix it within you with the help of the Almighty. But you have to recognize what you need to improve on and what's not working for you. Because sometimes you are your own blockage, you know? You are the only one that prevents yourself from going forward, whether that's in the workplace or whether that's with relationships. What is it about you that's preventing you from prospering? And you'll always find people out the opposite sex that will be attracted to you if you've got money or if you've got a house or if you've got a car. That's because of their mentality, and because money is the route to why someone might be chasing you. If you didn't have any money, they wouldn't be interested. So that's not the right person for you, you know? So you just need to be a positive role model, and I think communication is good. Yeah, people jump into relationships too quick. You have to learn to communicate with one another, find out what each other is about and where that person is planning on going in their future, what their plans are. And you just get to know each other by communicating, and we can change things together as a Black community. Like the other young man said earlier, I myself don't care who wants to date who. You know, if all the Black men in the area was to date white women, then that's up to them. I see it. It used to bother me, I think, before, but it doesn't bother me now anymore. I mean, it's up to you who you want to date.
Hold on.
No one's going to tell me what I'm going to date.
Hold on, man.
It's just
listen. Y'all talking about this integration mess just entirely too much. I've been sitting back being quiet, but hold on, I gotta jump in here.
I thought you logged off.
Yeah, listen, let me tell y'all. All this marrying white women and all these other races, it don't matter. Listen, it do matter. All right, so we need to get out of that mind frame thinking that not marrying within our race is okay for us to marry outside of our race. No, there's no way in the world that we can live like this in the society in which we're living today. Now, let me do some synopsis because I've been sitting back listening. I sat back and Eric, you want to jump in before I give y'all my synopsis? Eric, you want to jump in before I give y'all my synopsis? Go ahead. Unmute your mic. You got to unmute your mic, Eric. Unmute your mic first. Now you're good. Go ahead.
Yeah, just like the brother was saying about this dating other races, we got to come back together because every other races doesn't really have too much problem. And we got influence, you know what I'm saying, from a lot of this slavery stuff. So we need to come together. You know what I'm saying? Because all the other races, they kind of got their things in order already. We're the only one that don't have ourselves in order. So I'm going to turn this over to you, brother man.
Okay. Thanks. Hey, Tariq, you want to jump in?
Okay. All right, man. Yeah. I had to fight to get out of the mall, man. I was locked in the mall. So what y'all was talking about, I was listening, and Eric hit on some good points, and the young ladies as well. But right now I'm listening, man. I want to see where the next question goes and follow up from there.
All right, let me hop in then. I'm gonna hop in then. All right, listen. A synopsis I got from everything I heard is y'all in the UK are suffering from the same thing we're suffering from in America. But I think the brother spoke about how when he came as an immigrant, he looked down upon. So I don't know if y'all ever read the Ridder Lynch letter or what we call the Napoleon complex in America, wherein we label ourselves and we label our counterparts and make it rough on them. We treat them different than we'll treat other people. So it's a double standard for our own, but for other people, we don't hold that same standard to them. We may give them a pass. So like in America, we all been divided. See, now I don't know, I can't speak on the UK, I'm gonna speak on America right fast. As far as America, the Black home been divided. The Black home was divided on purpose. It was a strategy in the 60s. When they came out with assistant houses in America, wherein they would give Black women houses, food stamps, entitlements, as long as the Black man was not in the house. So you had families where the men would allow their wife and children to move into this assistant houses because they was living in shacks. They were barely surviving in the houses that they were in. So the man would let the mother and the children move into the house and get government assistance. So the government done this in the 60s, allowed you to get houses, the women and the kids, but the Black men couldn't go. Essentially removing the Black man out of the home. Now, even with that in slavery, we all know slavery, you know how they removed the Black man from the Black woman. They basically separated us, and you had to jump the broom. We had to go about our own way of getting married separate away from what's going on. That is a trauma that is still within us, and it's playing itself out. And I'm listening to y'all as y'all speak. And the one thing I hear about y'all with a brother, he said he dated a white woman though. So that's kind of like that's iffy with me. But what I'm hearing from y'all is y'all actually okay with dating other races. It's with y'all don't understand that we are in a war. And whether you like it or not, or whether you want to call it a war, you can call it whatever you want to call it. But at the end of the day, we're in a war, and it's called genetics and it's survival. And the art of survival, like Eric just spoke on, a lot of the other races' acts are in order. They're actually doing okay. But I know. But we, as African Americans or Caribbean Africans, or no matter what you want to call us, like whatever your name you want to name us, we're not doing as well as other races. Now, what we have to get back is to getting back to the black man, woman, and child. That's it. We have to get back to raising strong black families. In the midst of raising strong black families, all our problems will be solved. So you have different areas wherein different dynamics that play itself out. But this interracial mess, it has to go. I don't understand how it is functioning. I don't understand. Maybe because y'all haven't experienced what we have experienced in America. So maybe, that's what I'm gonna say. Maybe it's not the same experience, but the experience we have over here in America, we have to stick together. So we have to build strong black relationships and to cure this disease that we suffer from. Because we suffer from a disease called division, where we stay divided from one another. And we're not fixing our problems. We're basically making the problems worse. And so now you got people that want to talk about class. So that's the new thing now. Now everything is broken down into class. So depending on what class you in, it's not racism now, it's classism. Bull crap. Let me tell you something. That's a crop, because this classism and racism, no. Racism is where all our problems start. We have to get back to the laws of nature. Bottom line. You're not going to find no lions having sex with tigers. It just don't happen. The lions and the hyenas are at war. That's what it is. That's the law of nature. And what we have to understand is that we are at war. And when you are at war, you cannot go to bed with the enemy. You just can't do it. And when you go to bed with the enemy, we see what has happened in history when we have went to bed with the enemy. How do we get in the situation we in today? Check history. Follow history. We slept with the enemy. We brought the enemy in our homes. We start having children with the enemy. We start allowing them to marry into our families. We done this. And now I'm hearing it all over again. So it's like we have not learned from our mistakes. We have to study history. Now, as far as these these personal differences that we have and standards that we may have about each other and what we want and what we need, again, that is division, and we need unity. It seems like everything that is needed, that we need to unite, we use to divide. Everything. No matter what instance you look at it, if it comes to working and you having a job, or you taking care of someone that is not financially able to ready, or not somebody that's financially able on par with you, instead of you using that to better the person, we use it as a divide. Well, no, I'm not going to deal with you because you're not on my level. We use religion as a reason to divide. We don't use, this stuff is so simple to me. The way I'm paying attention to it is we're using things to keep us divided. I'm talking about African Americans or black people. Understand who I'm talking about. That's all I'm talking about. We use some of the simplest things to divide us when they should be the uniting factors. We should be uniting on the fact that a brother may be an immigrant and he's on his bottom. He's just coming here. He ain't really got nothing. He need help to find himself. But instead, no, people will use that to keep that brother down. To keep your foot on his neck, because we have that crab in the barrel syndrome. Well, we don't want nobody, we don't want to pull nobody up. All we want to do is constantly pull each other down. And that is a result of this trauma that we have been put into in this last 400 years. We have been separated from our true selves and our true identity or our true thought process of what family is. And in America, we trying to fight to get it back. Now, I don't know what I'm hearing over there, but in America, we are trying to fight to get ourselves back because we are tired of allowing other races to come within us. And it happens like clockwork. I can point out so many incidents in history where other races come in and then we demise. No matter what we have, we go down once we start allowing the other races to intermingle with us and get in with the family. We got to fix that. So that's my rant. I'm not even gonna ask a question. I'm not even gonna ask the question. Y'all jump in, but this all racist mess, just sleeping with all different races, that mess gotta go. In America, we ain't standing for it. I ain't gonna say what we call you over here, but we ain't standing for that. So y'all can hop in, go ahead, cut my head off, tell me I'm wrong. It don't matter. Jump in.
Hey man, hey, I live over here, but I do want to know what we call them over here.
I ain't gonna say it, man.
Nah. Okay, so I'm just messing with you. But you hit on some good points. You hit on some good points, man. And the all racist thing, I do agree. Once like somebody, I think my man Melvin from the last show that I missed last week. He hit on that, if we achieve success and wealth and we're married to another race, then once that person dies of a black race, then his wealth or her wealth goes over to another race of people who may not be hurt as bad as us and may not come back to our community. So when he said that, it did open my eyes a little bit on the interracial dating and marriages and everything else. My perspective, Stuart, when it comes down to, hold on for a second, I'm trying to get over it. I'm driving. So when it comes down to, and I lost my train of thought. We're talking interracial dating and marriage. So, but when it comes down to segregation, like when white people say they want to stay separate, I don't have a problem with that.
Hell no.
Like, but we want to, as a whole people, we want to say, oh, they racist. We want why we want so badly to be included. You know what I'm saying? Like they want to allow us into the country club. Well, what do you want to get in that country club and find out? Like in their country clubs, they have what we call secret meetings. I don't want to get in their country club. I don't want to infiltrate their system and find out their dirt, because most of the time the people that want to do that still come out with the information and do nothing with it to better their people. They're going to be right there trying to, I'm glad you let me in on this discussion, Tom. I tell you what, if you did it this way, you want to have an input. You don't want to find out some stuff. Like I was telling a gentleman the other day, I said, the main thing that I try to do, even if I don't grasp the whole concept myself, I would rather find out some information, whether I had to pay for it, like college. I'm going to tell you something how we can solve a lot of this. We know that everything ain't for everybody. So when we talk about restructuring our communities, well, college might not be for everybody. But for those that chose to go to college, if they went to college, paid that high-ass tuition, but then came back to the community and in their spare time taught someone who else can teach someone else that information. The information, once they have it now, is free. You already paid for it. So if you came back and you taught this information to your people who choose not to graduate from freaking high school, you know what I'm saying, you still have a better chance of bettering our community. So interracial dating and marriages, I personally say that it hurts us more than anything else, but in today's society, on other situations, we like to say to each his own, like the homosexuality and everything else. So to each his own with that, but for me, I disagree with it.
Bro,
Yeah.
brother, that's all you guys are saying, and I think you're perfectly right. Again, I'm more the solution guy. So I think we know what went on in history, and I concur with Stuart mostly that if we are to rebuild ourselves, we need to come back to ourselves, and I support that 100%. If and I like statistics, I like proof of things when I say things. If we take, for example, the Asian community, it's almost to marry outside of the Asian community if you're Asian. And these people are effectively taking over Britain because they stick together. You don't see many mixed Asian kids. You don't see them. Straight Asian family is rejected by the family, right? Because they were told on many occasions, yourself, multiply, stick together, and they applied those common ingredients, and that is why they're doing well. The evidence is there. We as a people, and again, I'm not saying, I'm a racist guy, but I believe what Stuart says, to rebuild or to remold ourselves, we have to come back to ourselves, appreciate ourselves, right? And indeed, the story is about the black woman and child. Sizzla is a Jamaican reggae artist, and he propounded in one of his great songs, black woman and child, for them we have so much love. And I will die in my black woman and child. But please, black women, help us. We need your help. We need your help. And yes, we have been shaped by slavery and misfortunes and adversity. But let's put that aside. What are the solutions? And solutions, as because the modern black men cannot be enslaved. We will not take it. We'll destroy them. So what we have to do is channel that energy that we have into solutions. How can we fix this? How can we work together? How can we fix this? How can we make our black women feel more beautiful? How can we make them believe in us? How can we make children realize it's natural to do well? How can we make them realize that education is a natural thing? How can we make them realize that to become a doctor or something is a natural thing? It's not, oh, my daughter is a doctor. No, it's natural. We went to send you to school, so you should come out to something. How can we make them realize that you can be another Obama? How can we make them realize that you can do well? Let's find solutions. Let's go for solutions. Because I think we are well educated and well informed of what went wrong. So as Stuart said, in America, you guys are trying to get yourselves back. And I think it's got to be an active approach. And I believe strongly, as he said, we have to come together. Black women, black men, black children. That's my take.
Yeah, I acknowledge and accept everything that's been said. It's, of course, we need to, and in terms of what the host said, I forgot your name, sorry. But anyway, you said that in America, this is what you go through, but you don't know how it is in England. Trust me, in England, some black people, we don't support each other as much as we should, especially as black people who are trying to run their own business. I'm an entrepreneur, and we have other entrepreneurs, and I know the black people in our community, we tend to almost look down at one another. We don't support one another enough. We rather go to the Indian shop because it's cheaper than go to our black shop, because they're charging too much, and then you want to knock the price down. Yeah, I've experienced it, and I might have been one of those people myself. Until I became an entrepreneur, I have more respect in terms of seeing the struggle. And so we do tend to not support our own, but also we, the way we come across sometimes as well, we can bring that on ourselves, where your own don't want to support you because of how we treat each other. So then you rather go and give your money to the let's call it the white man or the Asian man, instead of giving it to your own, because you feel you're not treated well by your own when you go into their business or anything like that. But I do believe we should, in order to help each other, we should, it all comes down to respect at the end of the day. We just don't respect each other enough. And maybe that slavery mentality is still with us deep down, you know. But the thing is, even though you say what you said about Black people need to come together and we need to stay in one race, yeah, that's fine, you know. But the thing is, it's that's not the battle. That's the problem. That's one battle. You can choose to fight that battle if you want, but you're going down the wrong route, because you know the Bible says we battle. The fight is not with one another. You know, there's higher powers where the fight is, which you cannot conquer that battle. So we battle not with flesh and blood, but with principalities and powers. You know, beyond what we can even imagine. So we can choose to fight that battle, but it's a losing battle regardless, because if you unite, whether the Asians unite or whether we unite, you know, or the Chinese unite, what's going to come of it? You think it's going to be even better? Of course, as human beings, we should be speaking to one another and dealing with one another in the right way. We should be treating each other equally respecting one another. As human beings, not because of our race, you know, because society is not going to be any better just because this race unites and gets together and gets their act together. We should be doing that full stop anyway, regardless. But because of history, which has tainted us, made us angry in parts, and we reject our race because of the way we've been brought up or whatever it might be, or because of racism. You know, and so we all have each race has their own individual struggle. You think other races have got their act together, but if you look deep down into it, they haven't. But I understand what my brother said about the Asians. They don't marry into marriage, and so they're able, as a community, they do work together as a community. Look how many Asian temples there are, you know, and how many Asian shops there are. They tend to put their money in together to build their community, and before you know it, the whole street is another India. You know, you got Chinatown. You know, and I don't know if we've got a Jamaican town somewhere. You know, in the middle of England or the middle of America. Don't forget, back in the days in America, you had the black what do you call it? You know, when they were wealthy. And they had the black businesses, you know, and I know because of people's evilness, they tore that down, you know, and there is an agenda, and the agenda is to tear down the black community and other communities possibly. But yes, as a black community, we have been torn down. And what you mentioned about separating the women and the children and putting them in the project and giving them food stamps, etc. I understand that, and I can see because of the wickedness of people, yeah, they did that intentionally and said, if you're single, we'll give you. We can assume they did it intentionally. For some, I'm sure they did do that intentionally, to separate the black woman from the man, to let the black woman know that you can manage without this man. We'll give you this, we'll give you that. You move into here. It happens over here in England. If you're a single mother with children, you will get what you need to be supported. Whether it's intentional to separate the black man, but if the black man, but you can look at it another way and say, the black man has abandoned the family. So this is a support system for you, whether you're black, whether you're white, or whether you're Asian. Because over here, it's whether you're black. There's no black project or, you know, Asian project. Black and white and Asian are living together. Of course, there's communities where there might be just white. It just happens to be the geographic area where you live. Some areas are mostly white, some areas are mostly black, some areas are mostly Asian, or some are mixed. But there is support systems, a welfare system here. And if you're single, you get support to raise your children. But there's also support if you're married, but a little lesser. But if you're married, because there's two people in the household, two people are supposed to support in the household. But if you're a single male with children, you also get the benefits and the welfare and the house. It's just a welfare system for all who is in need. Of course, it might have started off in America in terms of the racism situation. Who knows? We can only assume that that division was deliberate. But the battle is not a cultural one, but you will think it's a cultural one depending on your point of view. That's the only way I can put it. And every single topic you can possibly touch on, for me, if God is not in your life, you will go down a different route. You will have a different way of looking at things. And if God is in your life and he's leading your life, and I'm not talking about the white God, that, you know, the white man Christian, I'm not talking about that, because those who enslaved the black people, they weren't Christians. Yeah. They may have read the Bible and said the Bible said enslave people and the slave should obey his master. But they interpret that, if they read the Bible, they interpret it wrong and they weren't Christians. They'll be judged. But we can't really hang on to the past, and we can't be defined by the past. Just like if your parents raised you in a bad way, you can't be defined by how your parents raised you. Because when you become a man and a woman, you have to then break out of that cycle. So as I said before, it depends on where you're coming from with your views. And so your views are going to be different. My views are going to be different from yours, how I see it, because I'm on a different path in terms of I believe in my creator. And so I don't see those blocks, you know, I don't see those blocks. I don't think that, you know, no one's going to stop me from doing anything, and I know where I'm going. And every door will be open because I know who's going to open it. So regardless of racism, regardless of the evil one's intention, do you understand where I'm coming from? If you want to interject.
I know Lance probably want to get in.
Yeah, okay. I'll just say a few things before anybody else adds on. And there's some aspects I agree upon, and obviously there's some that I don't. And I am more of a person who likes to work with other people, who likes to work with other races, because I don't believe that as just one race, as us black people, we can find just strength amongst ourselves. We also need other races to help us. And the fact that because obviously with what slavery has happened to be honest, I'm from the southern part of Africa. So when you're talking about, we are more towards the colonial side, not the slavery kind of side, which is as bad as one another. But what I can tell you is that as bad as that was when the white people came into Zimbabwe and they just took over. But one thing I can tell you is the way they transformed, you can call it good or bad, but the way they transformed that country to be called the breadbasket of Africa, to be called that Zimbabwe was supplying, was probably the heart of Africa at that time. It was supplying all the countries with maize and whatever it wanted to do, wanted to have. Unfortunately, obviously, the money went obviously to all the white people and so on and so forth. But it was the way the country was transformed into that. Then, obviously, there's a black person who comes into leadership and totally tears all that down and says, no, I want my black people to be owning these businesses, but yet your black people are not trained in agriculture. How can you say that you want to give them back to them, but yet none of those people know exactly what they want to do? So my point being is that I'm a person who likes to integrate with other races. We cannot do this alone. And one thing I realized is that, I know I might be right, I might be wrong with this statement, but correct me if I'm wrong. But I've noticed with every successful black person, there is a white person involved somewhere. Why? Why is that? Because why? Because they allowed them to help them to be where they are. You think Michael Jordan wouldn't be where he is without Nike? No. with anybody else.
Hey, are you serious, bro?
Listen. Let me continue. I know this is not going to be popular, but what I can what I can say is that we need to, like what my sister Pam says, that we need to cut this away from us. We need to cut that out of us, to say that, oh no, the white man is the enemy, whatever. But I'm not saying that we should bow down before them. No, I'm not saying that. I am saying is that we should see how they have constructed their businesses, how they have been where they are now, and see like, oh, okay, I can see what you've done. Let me try to emulate that myself. I have tried my best to support Black businesses in the UK. I've tried to do from people from my own home country. I've tried to support them, but yet they are the ones who twist your arm or stab you in the back. And you'll be like, I am trying to help you, but is this how you're going to treat the person who's trying to help you? I'm definitely going to go somewhere else. Then again, I'm not saying that's what all Black businesses are like. I'm not saying that. This is the ones that I've experienced. And I'm just like, why are you doing this to me when I'm trying to help you? You're trying to cut off the hand that is trying to help you, but you're not treating me as somewhere else. That's why I would end up going to other Indian shops or whatever. Because if I go to you and say I want this, you're gonna give it to me. Or if I ask for a particular service, I am gonna get that service. So really, I think we definitely have to support each other, and at the same time, let us not backbite each other. Or when there's a Black person who's successful, let us not spit in their face. Let us help them, support them, and be the great person where they are, where they've gone and how far they have gone. And to be honest, if you think about it, in Britain, there are a lot of Indian people who have owned shops and stuff. Correct me if I'm wrong. There are a lot of Indian people who own shops there, but they're not or corner shops or takeaway shops, as what you call. They're successful not because they're just serving Indians alone. They're successful because they're selling back to the people. They're selling back to white people. They're selling to Black people. They're selling to people of all races. They're not only focused on one race when it comes to whatever they're selling. So, to be honest, I don't really agree on just saying that, we have to be us and us alone. And I'll end up with giving this is a perfect, one last example. There is a movie coming out in February. You might have heard about it, you might not. There's a movie coming out in February called Black Panther. It's an African superhero. It's got a 90% Black cast in it, right? It's probably going to be one of the biggest movies next year. But that character, the Black Panther character, it's owned by Disney. And you telling me that, because you can't tell me that movie, one of the biggest movies of the year, or even if you look at the Fast and Furious franchise, one of multicultural movie, and you're telling me that these things won't be possible without integration by other cultures and people from different backgrounds? Nah, I fail to agree with that. And the thing is, like, we have to move on from that mentality whereby we're saying that, okay, white people need to stay around, Black people, we need to stay together. And I don't think that would ever work. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong. I want to listen to what you guys have to say.
Okay.
Julie, you and your homeboy, y'all want to jump in?
He's gone.
Okay, you want to jump?
As far as what you said, Stuart, about white people being the enemy, I don't understand the concept. I love myself as a black person. For myself as a black person, I want every other nation to feel what I'm feeling. If you're Asian, love yourself how I love myself. Hate doesn't produce anything, so there's no hate in me. I can't hate a white man. He's not my enemy. Whatever happened 400 years ago, it happened. I've got to. What's the point holding on to it? It's non-productive. It really is. Yes, we remember our history, but you can't change your future. I've got a today, so I can't base my future on slavery. Not at all. It happened. There's nothing I can do to change it. There's nothing that white kid who was born yesterday can do about slavery. He can't help that he was born white either. That's his history. There's nothing he can do about it. There's nothing I can do about it. I've got to move on from it.
And be different, make the change.
Eric, you want to jump in? Or you gone?
I don't know. This sound like is getting off the hand here, but I mean, just like I was saying earlier, we need to get together because you know what I'm saying, we're the only race that's not, you know what I'm saying, connected with each other. If you go to any other race, they connected with each other. You know what I'm saying? But I don't get how, these people are seeing that it's okay. You know what I'm saying? From all the things that we've been through, the brainwashing.
No one's saying it's okay. We're just saying, there's no point dwelling on it because there's nothing you can do about the past. What you need to do is make a difference now for the future. You be an example, be a role model to your community that you live in. Be a positive role model as a black man to your children, your nephews, your brothers, your fellow man. Yeah? And be a difference there. There's no point harping on the past and what happened in the past.
Okay, hey, Stuart, can I say something?
Hold on. Y'all let Eric finish though, man. We gotta keep the rules, man. Let Eric finish. Go ahead, Eric. We can't cut nobody off. Let them talk.
No, I wasn't cutting him off.
Yeah, but I mean, I understand what you're saying about, you know what I'm saying, we gotta start with our community first, which is true, you know what I'm saying. It gotta start, really actually gotta start from the house and then it goes out to the community. But I'm from here, it just seemed like it's okay to date other races. I know you said, you know what I'm saying, certain things, but the way that the conversation is going, it just seemed like it's okay. And we are the ones that, you know what I'm saying, that going through the suffering and pain, and all the other races, I mean, not saying that they get it all, you know what I'm saying, smooth and dandy and stuff like that, but we're the one that got it the worstest. And you know what I'm saying, we got to come together. You know what I'm saying? All that mixing with different other races is just making it better for the other race. And because, you know, in the long run, you know what I'm saying, we're not making it. We're not making it. You know what I'm saying? Because they got us going against each other. And they started from, you know what I'm saying, the black man going against the black woman.
Facts.
And now, since the black man going against the black woman, you know what I'm saying, is brother going against brother, sister going against sister. I just don't get it. But I'm going to turn it over to y'all now.
Go ahead, Tariq, man.
Oh, no, I was going to comment. I was going to let him finish and everything. I was gonna comment on what both of them said. So if who's that, Pam?
Hello?
Yeah.
If you have anything else to follow up, that will you go ahead.
Well, no, I think I said it really. I mean, it has to start with you as an individual to make that change. Yes, there's probably a lot more black on black killing in America than there is over here. Thank the Lord, it's not happening over here as widespread as it is in America. Who's to say that might not change? But when we're killing each other over drugs, over women, and if you look at the music industry, we have our young people and some of our age groups as well, looking up to those individuals as role models with all the foolishness that they're going on with. The lyrics are derogatory. They're constantly listening to that music telling them that, that lifestyle is okay. The disrespect, the bigging up one another and acting the fool, and it's all about money and status and wealth and womanizing. Like, that's where you need to be. When you reach that level, you've made it. But that's just a false dream. So it's people are inspired. Young people, young black boys, young black girls are aspiring to that level, thinking that's what they need to be, and those are wrong role models, And so if you know better, you have to live better and show others how to live better, because that's the only way our community is going to change. Coming together and doing what? I just think that we need to, as individuals, just do better and set the example to bring about change. I have to set the example in my household so that my child grows up to be a better person and she can hold her own, and you have to be the same in your family. But no, apart from just repeating what I've already said, there is no battle with another race as far as I'm concerned, because, as I said before, we wrestle not with flesh and blood. So, that, as Julie said, they're not my enemy. That there is bigger powers, where the conflict really is. And if you trust in your creator, you will make it, But I think because people are far removed from God, far removed, is a reason why there is so much hatred and so many problems in our community, especially because of our history. And this, I mean, I don't know whether it's true or not. I'm sure it is, because I do believe that God's people started from the black race, and so the white race, the Asian, have come out of the black race, but I'm not going to go all the way into that now, because that can get too far ahead, so the black race will never die out, but where we are now, there's infighting, there's hatred, not everybody, but a majority, and there's self-hatred towards ourselves, where people are bleaching to look white, and doing all sorts of things and behaving in a certain way that black people never would have behaved, but of course, each to their own. But at the same time, it's self-hatred of oneself. And if people are hating their race, how on earth are we going to come together? Because you've got to love yourself first before you can even embrace your community, embrace your culture, embrace who you really are. I don't know whether you guys
Let me jump
celebrate
in.
Black History Month.
No, I agree.
Can I say something real quick?
Go ahead, Tariq.
All right, so with what Eric was talking about and what Pam was chiming in with as well. So, right now I think we were on, interracial dating community as a whole. They or who is they that don't. So first off, what Eric was talking about, just because, like I said, when I said I don't disagree when other races of people want to stay together, I don't disagree with that. And the problem is that when we as black people start talking about staying together, other people, even some of our own people, have a problem with that and see it as racist, like we're hating on other races. So I know we all know the definition of community, but I'm gonna read it off right now. One definition of community, it says a group of people living in the same place or having a particular characteristics in common. Second definition, a feeling of fellowship with others as a result of sharing common attitudes, interests, and goals. So with that being said, of the two definitions of what a community is supposed to be, and whoever wrote this, right, definition of community, Pam, do you believe that the definition of community as a whole, as black people, that we have a community right now?
There is a black community. There will always be a black community. I mean, you know, there's a black community in England. There's a, you know, and England is a big country, so there's pockets of black communities, you know, in certain parts. I don't know if you've ever been to England, but there are pockets of black communities, and certain areas have more black people in those areas, and it's known more widely as, oh, that's a black community. That's more geographically black, or black and Asian, or Asian or black, whatever. So yes, I do. Yeah, community doesn't necessarily mean a bad thing. Hopefully I didn't come across that coming together meant it's a bad thing. I just don't think it should be a battle or some kind of conflict. It has to make sure it doesn't come across. Well, perhaps the way you came across was like, you know, like we had to get together to fight. Maybe that's how you came across when you introduced that we need to come together. But no, it's not a negative thing. Maybe I read it wrong, but it's not a negative to come together as a community. We need to come together as a community because that's the only way we're going to stop. Because we have gangs over here, not as heavy as over there, but we have gangs over here, young kids killing each other, and we have, you know, and I know it's big in America in terms of black fighting black. So if we came together as a community, and we try to do that, you know, churches try to do that, church leaders, church families, or just community support workers come together and bring the young people together. And I'm sure that's happening over there in America as well, but there's only so much small groups can do. But we all have to come together. But that may never happen because, you know, there's too many issues that causes that, and people have to be willing to listen, and people have their own baggage.
Think one of the main issues that causes that is that with this one, I'm just looking at a feeling of fellowship with others as a result of sharing common attitudes, interests, and goals. I think that's the problem. I think that a lot of us don't share those common attitudes, interests, and goals, right? And with that being said, the point that I wanted to hit on was, do we think that other communities or other races of people have the same common attitudes and interests and goals that we do? A group of people living in the same place having a particular characteristic in common. We have to ask other races and other communities, do they have the same characteristics in common and living in the same place under the same circumstances as we do? So when I said, and I believe Eric was saying the same thing, and Stuart, is that we have to come together first, right, as a whole, and others may not have our same characteristics in common or common attitudes, interests, and goals that we do. So while others may say we shall overcome, we all must get along, America under the same, all this other stuff, right? Deep down inside, what are they doing in actions to show that? You know what I'm saying? Like, do we have that community? Because like I said, I read off the definition. So do we have that community right now? A lot of times when I hear, you know, the black community or this community, I'm thinking to myself, okay, I'm looking for my community. I know I have my people that's supposed to belong in this community, but do they have the same characteristics and common interests and goals that I do?
You know, you bring up a good conversation and a good point when it comes to the community and the common goals and common interests. And one thing that I like to use is the Chinese people, because they have common goals, common interests. They actually have a culture of theirs that they live by and they follow. They have their own religion, majority of them, that they live by and they follow. So a question I ask is, well, if Black people join the Chinese community, if we start practicing their religion, start believing in their God, right? And we practice their customs and cultures, are we going to be prosperous in that? You can look at the Indian people. You can look at their certain customs and cultures that they have. They have their own religion. If we decide that we're going to adopt their cultures and their religion and associate us in their society, are we going to be prosperous in it? I would beg to say no. We wouldn't be. Because that's not ours. That's not our culture, and that's not our tradition. But I want to harp on something that my man said that I can't let him get away with, Lance. He said Michael Jordan would not be successful if it weren't for Nike. Now, I can't let that go. Michael Jordan was Michael Jordan before Nike. Nike came to Michael Jordan because Michael Jordan was who he was. And Nike basically raped Michael Jordan because they are still getting paid off his brand. It wasn't their brand. He made Nike when they signed him. Not only that, something else he said is that every time you have successful Black people, you have a white person behind them. Well, I don't understand what your thought process and where you get this stuff from. You said that the farmers in Africa didn't know how to farm. We were the first people farming. Farming came from African people. We farmed first. The idea of farming came from us. So for us not to do something that we invented, I'm lost. I don't understand that. I don't understand that at all. Now, Miss Pam, you keep throwing this religion into this thing. And I'm trying my best to stay away from it with you today.
I miss that. I keep throwing what? Sorry.
You keep, listen, I'm gonna tell you this, Pam.
No, it cut out just then when you said something. I keep throwing
religion.
Oh, okay.
It keep falling back, right? So that's why I asked the question. If we become Buddhists, because that's a form of religion, is that gonna solve
not the right religion?
See, you see what you're saying? You said
what
I
know what
I'm
saying.
You said what I wanted you to say. That's not the right religion. And that in itself is the problem. Because when you have religions, you separate people.
Buddha is not my God.
Hold on. Understand me. Listen and listen well. If you was a Chinese person and you were born in China, Buddha would be your God.
He wouldn't be.
Because of where you were born and raised, your God is something different. That's division. Understand me. Understand where I'm coming from with this. I'm not talking about nobody religion. I'm talking about division. I'm talking about division among people that keeps us divided. And that is a form of division. Because if you were born in Saudi Arabia, you're probably going to be an Arab or a Muslim. That's going to be your religion. I mean, it's dependent on the geographic area where you are born. But people don't want to say that and don't want to admit that. But we know that, and also the time frame that you're born in. If you were born probably, if you were born in the 3rd or 4th dynasty period of Kemet, I don't think you would be Christian. So when it comes to religion, that's a division. I look at that as dividing people. I look at division. But division ain't always bad. Because I don't feel like integration was never a good thing for us. I don't feel like when we integrated in the 60s, that actually helped our cause. I feel like integration put us back. Because before integration, we were doing good. Guess who all the doctors was in our neighborhood before integration? They were black. Guess who all the school teachers were before integration? They were black. Everybody that were in positions of leadership and authority looked like the people that they were teaching. And from that mindset, that allows children to believe that they can become anything that they want to become. Whatever they put their mind to, they can do. When you brought up the music and people inspiring to be like these artists, well, who promotes the music? Who constantly puts the music in areas where they can be assessed? We don't control this.
Oh, no.
So that means that it's somebody else that is putting it in our faces or making sure it's constantly in the waves. You can look back at early hip hop in the 80s. 80s hip hop wasn't talking about kill nobody. It wasn't talking about calling women out their name. I'm trying to be respectful because you said about swearing, so I'm changing my language. But in 80s hip hop, they wasn't talking about degrading black women or shooting and killing or striving to be the richest person. Guess what they were talking about? They were talking about getting knowledge and black power and uniting. And guess what happened when that was going on? Somehow that got infiltrated and the direction of it was changed. Do you think it was the artist that changed the direction, or was it money?
I understand. It was changed by the white man.
I'm saying that you have factors that needs to be put in this equation to get this solution. Accountability is very important because we have to be accountable for our decisions that we make. So you never throw accountability out the window, because at the end of the day, we make decisions ourselves.
Of course.
But also, there's a such thing as being programmed. And if you don't think that people can be programmed, watch TV.
Oh, yeah,
watch a lot of things that people say. You can tell that we can be programmed. Actually, we are the result of programming. We are the projects because they experimented it on our ancestors. So when we talk about we can't live in the past is within us because we are the result of that past. Because we have the same DNA of those that went through it.
Yes.
So if we have the same DNA, and if we can take certain type of diseases that what they say, they're hereditary, high blood pressure runs in your family. High diabetes is a family thing. Y'all have a history. Your family have a history of bad hearts, right? That is something that is hereditary, that is passed down. So why don't we think that this trauma and this drama and this persecution that our ancestors went through, why somehow we don't think that comes along with it? If the
it can be passed down. But
so it's passed down. So it's within us. So when it's within us.
But I did say but.
Some of us now, it's never good to dwell and just stay in the past and never move forward. You can never stay in the past because you're in the present. So you have to move forward. But at the same time, you have to learn from mistakes. And I can tell y'all, when we integrated, mistakes happen. We in a worse situation if we would have stayed by ourselves. Before integration, even when you go back to before we was enslaved, we allowed certain people to start coming into that land. And once they start coming into the land, we was already infighting ourselves. So we had our own personal differences anyway. But you had somebody to come in to exploit them differences, to make them more than what they really were, to use it for a bigger plan. I can even go back to Kemet before they allowed the agents to move in. Before the agents were even able to come to Kemet. They ain't what they were called back then. They were called a different name, and I'll leave that alone because I don't want people to get mad at me. But they were called a different name at that time, before they even allowed them to get within their areas and come within the temples. They started setting up towns outside of these towns until they got to the point where there was enough of them there that they were able to come in, force their way in. And guess what happened? We started marrying the women, bringing them in. They slowly started assuming power. And once they assumed power, Dark Age, Golden Age gone. All 3 times that you can, even as far as I can go back, I see the same pattern. So here we is now, 2017. Are we gonna make the same mistakes? Or are we gonna move forward? How can you move forward if you keep going backwards? That's not moving forward. And one thing I'm gonna let y'all, I'm gonna say this, I'm gonna let y'all go. You cannot tell your neighbor to cut his grass if your grass is 6 feet tall in your yard. So you have to get your house in order before you can tell the next man what to do with their house.
Yeah,
that's what I'm talking about as Black people. As Black people as a whole, we have to get ourselves together before we can worry about any other race. We got to fix our problems. Then once we fix our problems, then we make them linger on. But until then, we can't. And y'all can eat me alive. You know what? I'll let everybody y'all say what y'all want to say. Probably like within 15 minutes or 10 minutes. I know it's probably like 1 o'clock over there where y'all at.
No, it's about after 12.
11:30
I mean
close
after
to
11.
It's after 11. Okay. Well, I mean, I don't know how late y'all want to be up here, but y'all can go ahead. I'm trying to be mindful of the time.
Yeah, can I just quickly say before I go? Yeah, I mean, you've basically said what we've said. I mean, yeah, you have to get your own, as you said, the scenario with the graphs, you have to sort your own home out first before you can worry about anybody else. So it's the same with the Black community. If your home is not in order, then how can you expect your other Black brother to get his house in order? So, as I said before, it starts with yourself. If you want the Black community to come together, work together, love one another, be strong and support one another, it has to start with me. It has to start with you. And then it works. You set the example. And that's how we grow together. And also, it's not about forgetting your past. It's not about forgetting what you've been through, what your Black people have been through. But you're transformed by the renewing of your mind. So you mentioned about heart disease and diabetes, it's hereditary. Just because your father and your mother had diabetes doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get diabetes. But if you eat the same kind of food and you have the same kind of lifestyle, you will get diabetes. But if you change what you're eating, exercise, sleep, and do all the right things, then you're likely to avoid diabetes. I'm speaking of diabetes because that's in my family as well. My father had it, or my uncles had it. Some of my siblings have had it, but I haven't got it. I could have it if I do the same thing, but just because it's hereditary does not mean you will get it. So that's an example that you use there. The same with the mentality. Your mentality can be changed. By beholding you become change. So just like in terms of the music industry, if you're constantly in that, you know it's no good for you. It's leading you astray. But if you stay in it, if you listen to the wrong music, if you eat the right food, you're going to go down a different path. But if you walk away from those things, as a grown adult, you have to make the right decisions. You can choose to stay, you can choose to go. and make positive decisions. And we all are easily led and led astray, but then you have to say, okay, well, I know this is wrong for me, so I'm going to walk away from that. And it's all about having a different mindset, feeding yourself with positivity, or you can feed yourself with negativity. So yeah, that's what I'll end on there. So I think we agree in one sense with what's being said. We have the same consensus. But yeah, we're not defined by the past, but we can make a difference by coming together. So I'm going to leave that at my last statement. Thank you.
Come on, Lance. I know you want to get me.
Well, yeah. Just to add on to what Pam has just been saying as well, and well, because this has been a very long conversation, and I'm tired. I wish I could go on forever, but I'm a bit tired. But first of all, I just want to apologize for the Michael Jackson one. That was more of an assumption than knowledge, so I apologize for that. But the thing, well, it was not exactly what I was trying to say, but obviously that Nike deal was obviously something totally different. So I do apologize for that, and thank you for calling me out on that. But what I still stand behind what I said before that about behind every black man, there's a white person involved in some way. I'm not saying that we cannot be alone. What I'm trying to say is that we can still be black people, but work with other races. That's what my whole point was all about. And just a quick one about what you said about Zimbabwe and agriculture. Man, we don't know how to farm nothing. Let me tell you that.
Well, if that's your culture, then you will know, I guess.
No, to be honest, we did know how to. There are places where people farm and they eat from the land and stuff, but it was just the whole commercial part that we needed to know how to turn it into a business. More like that's what we needed to learn. But just to end off, we've learned. I've learned quite a few things, and I thought it was just going to be 5 or 6 factors, but I realized that there are a whole lot more. Some of them I did not see myself. And you were right, sure, that it has to start with us. We have to, and to agree with Pam as well, we have to change the way we're thinking as well as men and women, and also as black men and black women, the way we treat each other, the way we respond to other people outside our own communities. But you are right, we need to build our communities for them to be much stronger, even though some of parts of our cultures have been hijacked, but we still need to remain with the true essence of that culture that we had, because we alone know what it means to us. Finding ways to make our culture be easily consumable to ourselves, to outside people, to people out there, so that they can also appreciate that there is a lot of wealth in black culture. Even though they might not admit it, I'm talking about the white culture. They might not admit it, but we influence them more than they think they do. Sure. So we're already going that direction. We're already there.
That's why they imitate us.
Yeah, exactly. So when it comes to hip hop music, that's why they have taken it and turned it into something that's absolutely horrible. You know what I mean? But that shows that, wait, hang on. We came up with this. They've taken it and obviously used it for other things, but we got to know that, we've got influence. If you look at some white kids and even Indian kids here in the UK, they're acting like black people. When they come into our culture,
it's the fashion and the hairstyles.
Yeah, exactly. Everything, the music, the hairstyle. Even though it's not the part of black culture I really want them to copy, because it leads them into gangs and violence and that sort of thing. But there is some kind of influence that is there. So we are going that direction. It might look like they're stealing some of these things, but I think that, you know what, this culture is great. And if somebody is from another background is saying that, you know what, I love this culture, I want to take this apart, I'm just like, yo, brother, you go ahead and do that, because I know that you cannot live without us here. And we're going, and that's the thing, is that we are going the right direction. And yeah, I'll just leave it to that as we close. I don't know if you guys are going to carry on, but I'm very tired and I got an early day tomorrow, so I'll leave it to that.
Yes, I'll say good night as well. Thank you. It'd be interesting. Maybe next time.
Yeah, look, if y'all
Yeah.
want to come up with another topic that we can talk I don't mind. Like we can have shows we want to try to start having 3 shows a week. So like we want y'all to come on, because we need to connect with the family that's not in America, because we need to start making these connections overseas. Actually, we need to start, and then we actually Lance like he should have family in Africa. We need to start making these international connections, because we are one big global family. We may be separated by waters or different things that we went through, but at the end of the day, we are all one big family, and we need to start hashing out our issues. And when we talk, we find out that we are going through the same thing, maybe on smaller scales, maybe on a larger scale, but we all basically kind of like experiencing some of the same stuff. So it's good for us to connect, hear other perspectives, and put our heads together and start coming up with solutions. So I thank everybody for coming. Do any of y'all want to end in prayer? Julie, Altariq, Lance, Pam, do any of y'all want to end the show in a prayer? And Altariq, you want to give a quick shout out on the starting point, in the promo, anything you got going on you want to give? Any of y'all, and y'all can, whoever decide they want to end it with prayer, y'all can go ahead.
Well, one thing I want to close with, and I appreciate having a chance to get up here on the show. One thing I want to close with is that I think that this show today has been very helpful in more than one way. I think we got some good opinions and ideas out there, and I think that, I know for myself, I listened to other opinions that I disagreed with in the beginning. I may still disagree, but I also learned something from that. So this show was very helpful. Last thing I want to say is that let's keep in mind when we're talking about working with others. I just find it very funny throughout my life. I'm 39 years old, and I find it very funny that everyone wants to work with everyone else, but it's hard to get different religions to work with different religions. So we'll work with everyone else as long as they're on the same accord. But if they're anything different than what we oppose, it's hard for us to get along. And I think we got to get past that so we can actually grow. Julie, Pam, or Lance, y'all can end the show in a prayer. I'm gonna end it just like that.
Yeah, I'll say a prayer if Julie's not going to, if Julie's okay, just to end. Okay, let's pray. Almighty God in heaven, in Jesus' name, we just want to thank you. It's my first time having this communication. We just thank you for technology, that we're able to communicate with one another, with my brothers and sisters across the airways and locally. I pray and I thank you for all that you've done. Thank you for life. I pray that you'll bless each and every one in a special way, bless their families and their homes. I pray, Heavenly Father, that you will open every single door and remove every single barrier. I pray that you will just help us to draw near to you and seek your word, to feed upon your word so that we can be renewed by the reading of your word. And pray that we'll be able to come together again and converse with one another. And so I thank you, Lord, for life, and I pray that you will be with each and every one of us as we depart now. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you. God bless.